I'm like, if you're alive and you live in the state, you're involved.
Yep.
Plain and simple, you're involved. Because if you don't help, you might as well just jump over to the left side and just start helping them out.
And why you would want to be here in the first place if it wasn't
The greatest country.
greatest. There's no other power source that is safer from producing it to using it than nuclear. There's still not enough urgency on it. We are running out of water.
Welcome out to God and Country. I'm Uriah Kennedy. Ingrid Bettridge, my co-host, is down in southern Utah this weekend, so she's not going to be with us here. But we have a great guest, as you guys can see. This is Brooks Benson. He is running for Senate down in Utah County, part of Salt Lake, part of Tooele counties. We'll get into all of that and more in this session. Again, like, subscribe, and share us out on your social media. We are doing our darndest trying to get past the whole YouTube suppression problem. We really want to get past their conservative media suppression algorithm, and it just takes you as the audience. That's all it's going to take, is you guys getting us out there, sharing us, and making sure that everybody is getting to the channel and listening to the entire podcast. There's a lot of information that comes out on these podcasts, a considerable amount of subjects that we discuss. You can get down below and look into the chapter headings that we put into the description if you want to skip ahead, or you just want to listen to certain subjects, or preferably just listen to the full podcast, even if you only listen to 20, 30 minutes of a day. We know we are long format. There's a reason why we're long format. It's because a lot more information comes out and it gets better every single time we do this. Again, March 13th. And remember, March 13th, 11 a.m. at the Utah State Capitol building in their media room. We're going to have our big suicide and DEI and CRT podcast. Again, we're going to have Carrie Ann Lisenby there. We're going to have Dan McKay there, Heidi Baldry, Trevor Lee, Corinne Johnson from Utah Parents United, and then 3 sets of parents of kids that have had issues in school or have committed suicide. And it's going to be kind of an open format, town hall type of a meeting. All 4 news agencies here in the state of Utah are all invited, and we'll see if they show up as mainstream media. But we're going to have fun there. We have a lot of other things coming up, so stay tuned for the upcoming weeks in our podcast. But we're going to get into today's subject with Brooks Benson here. You're replacing who? Or trying to replace who?
So it's a weird situation where Dan Thatcher was in the seat as early as November of this year. He resigned, but because he had switched over from the Republican Party to the Utah Forward Party at the end of session last year, the Forward Party got to choose a replacement nominee, and that replacement, Emily Buss out of Eagle Mountain, Senator Buss, she has won the vacancy seat for the nomination for her party, the Forward Party, and so she's in there right now, and she'll be there for the rest of this year. And we are running for the seat this year to fill in the new seat for the next term.
What is the difference between the Forward Party and the Republican Party? I mean, there's half the people out there have no idea what that even is.
Yeah, I honestly have had to kind of look into it because it's kind of been a big topic on our in our area when the vacancy popped up. But from my understanding, and I don't want to go on the record as knowing exactly what the Forward Party stands for and what they do, I just know that it is a group of people that tend to not want to follow either party
Do
ideologies.
you think they're more middle of the road, or are they farther right than us?
I would personally say that they're farther left than the middle of the road, but they're trying to be middle of the road. But
anybody that tries to be in the middle tends to lean left. That's just a given.
It's
right?
just
There's
that's just what happens.
It's just
Yeah.
as funny as that is. There's a lot of people that try to be that lukewarm middle ground people, and they always end up caucusing with the left.
That's right. And I guess that's a great path for them to go down if they want to do it. But it seems like they attract a lot of the people that we see tend to join the Republican Party in efforts to vote more lefts in the first place, when it's, we would like it to be just Republicans joining caucus and voting Republican. We want to keep it.
Well, yeah. I mean, we're a red state. We want to be a red state. We want to remain a red state.
Yeah.
The problem we have is everybody on the left knows they're a red state, staunch red state, and so they just register.
Yeah.
And they'll become our delegates. They say the right thing and get their neighbors to vote for them as delegates, and they vote for the left as the delegates, but no one ever sees it. Why? Because it's a private vote.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of people that get into legislature, whether in the House or the Senate, that are definitely left-leaning, but they conceal it as much as possible because, again, they know a red state, but they want to turn us purple as much as possible. And it's wolves in sheep's clothing, and it's a lot more pervasive than people.
And we've seen it be very much admitted now by the left that this is happening, when the numbers came out of how many registered Democrats there are in the state during this whole map redistricting situation. Yep. They have openly come out and talked about how their numbers would be higher if most of their voters had registered Democrat instead of Republican. And we're like, well, we also feel the same. We would like that to switch. Can you please, switch over? So we know that's happening. They've admitted that. It's not a secret. I'm not coming out with breaking news here. This is happening, and it'd be nice if we were just all honest about it.
One of the things I learned growing up as a kid, and particularly in Scouts, was to be prepared. And particularly when it comes to my feet. You do not want to be out in a situation where your feet are incredibly uncomfortable and makes you absolutely miserable, makes the rest of the day absolutely miserable. So you have to go out there in the right equipment, whether that's hiking in the mountains, whether that's fishing on the stream, it's working out in your garden or out in the yard, or it's going out on the town or to the nearest rodeo in a nice pair of boots. You have to go out prepared so you look good, feel good, and most importantly, it is comfortable. Because again, there's nothing like being miserable walking around all day long. We want to introduce you to 3 different companies that are supporting this channel. We have Durango Boots, which provides the best Western wear and boots that money can buy. So you'll have the look, the feel that you want. There's also Rocky Boots for that great mountain wear, that hiking wear, and just getting out into nature and being prepared for what you're confronting. And then there's Mucky Boots or Muck Boots, which will provide the perfect waterproofing that you need for fishing, hunting, and again, getting out in the yard and working in the mud. These are great companies that supply a great pair of boots for you for any need, for any occasion. So again, go to the link in our description or click on the QR code that's coming up on your screen for any of these great sites, whether it's Western wear, whether it's the outdoor wear and getting up into the hills and the mountains, or whether it's muck wear that you need to be able to work around the garden or go fishing or hunting and not walk around with wet feet. These are great products at great prices that will keep you perfectly comfortable all day at the same time that you're looking good. So trust these products, whether it's Durango, whether it's Muck Boots, or whether it's Rocky Mountain Boots or Rocky Boots, and go to those sites using the link in our description or QR code that's popping up on your screen. Again, the link in the description or QR code that's popping up on your screen, and support our channel.
But they're not. I mean, as a county delegate, I faced it personally. I was helping John Croft get into office as county commissioner and a few others get into office, and I was doing a lot of phone calls amongst the delegates. And talking to delegates, I could tell immediately, you're not conservative, and you're a delegate. I mean, I had people openly tell me, because we're specifically talking about pornographic type books in the children's section of public libraries,
Right.
and in our schools.
Claiming it's banning books when no, you can still get that anywhere else, dude, in your private area. Not
telling me, why wouldn't we expose our children to that? They need to know that kind of stuff. They're going to get exposed to it. Why won't we just teach them about it right now? I'm like, you're wanting to teach K through 6 this type of material. And I was very specific in my phone conversation. They're like, yeah, I don't see a problem with it at all. I'm like, yeah, you're not conservative.
They want to take that's just another step in the process of trying to take away parental rights on how they bring up their children. And they're trying to bring in areas to education that are not part of education. There's a section where the school can provide education, and there's a section where the parents need to provide education, and that needs to be a parental right. And if they want to relinquish that to somebody else, that's their business. But that doesn't mean everybody should have to.
Well, it's not in the school's purview to
It's just not.
move into that. The only reason why they would want to put that into the school's purview is because they specifically want to indoctrinate the next generation.
Yeah.
They do not like the conservative values. They hate the conservative values. The vast majority of them hate Christianity, period. And they know that the only way to curb that type of tide is to go after the next generation.
Right.
They
The most vulnerable.
They specifically want to target it.
Yeah.
It's funny how we did this a couple podcasts ago, how you could have extreme leftists in Oregon, Washington, California, and a lot of people in the Republican Party, a lot of people on the right have that kind of live and let live mentality.
Right.
And I saw that no more than what I saw in Prop 4. And people on the right would honestly do that. They would just live and let live. You live your life and we'll live ours, and we can agree to disagree. The problem with the left is they can't.
Right.
They physically, mentally, they can't leave it alone.
Right.
I've got to spread. My ideology is more important.
I want my ideals to be forced onto you.
They can't leave it alone. And they said, no, if it's not okay that they're leftists in Oregon, Washington, California, but if they say Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, Arizona at all right, they're like, oh, can't leave it alone. I got to start intruding.
Right.
And that's just the way it is.
Right.
And the biggest problem we have, we're going a little bit into Prop 4 here, and I had massive discussions with this, is as I was out there trying to collect signatures for Prop 4, I can't tell you how many conservative people I spoke to that just simply said, I'm not political, I don't get involved.
They don't understand it.
I'm like, if you're alive and you live in this state, you're involved.
Yeah.
Plain and simple, you're involved. Because if you don't help, you might as well just jump over to the left side and just start helping them out.
Yeah, it makes it really hard when things that are affecting you only worry about it once it's already too late. Yeah. Once it's already affecting you, you can't do anything. It's harder to do something about it when something's in place.
Well, I had close neighbors, people within my own church that were like, I just don't get involved. I'm like, do you understand that if this goes through, you're partially to blame for this? It's your fault that bad things happen in good states because you have that attitude.
Good people do nothing.
Good people do nothing. And it's sad to see that. And that's why people like you and others that are trying to get elected, get into office, it's so important that people do stand up for that. Because if we're not standing up for those who should be in office and those that should not be in office get in, and then things just start swinging left.
Yeah.
And as much as I'm doing these podcasts, the more I do it, the more I get into that political atmosphere, the more I'm seeing significant amounts of corruption within our state. And people are like, oh, this is a good old Mormon state. We're good.
We're safe.
If we're not Mormon, we're conservative. We're
Christian. Safe. Yeah.
We're safe. I'm telling people we're not.
We're not as safe as people think we are.
There's so much darkness on the backside. We had Jason Preston on from We Are the People a couple weeks ago. And he goes really a lot into that dark side and thing.
Deep into that.
Goes deep into that. And he has that kind of lost cause mentality. nothing to grade on, but he gets in that lost cause where everybody's got to go. We got to turn the whole thing upside down. I'm like, well, I understand your point, and I understand that there's a lot of negativity. There's a lot of bad things happening behind the scenes, but that mentality is not going to work either. It's not going to win any hearts over. It's not going to do anything. So we got to.
It's hard when when people feel and don't see the strategy to get somewhere, to get to that achievable goal. They tend to think all is lost, right? And that's really hard. And when you do feel like all is lost, behavior's a lot different, and you act differently, and you don't do make as safe choices, right? More strategic choices. But if you sat back and you thought strategically about all of the different options, solutions that are available, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of effort, but those are all still viable, and those are there's a lot of different ways that we can still do that. I really do look at representative government much differently over the past couple of years as I've learned and participated in the caucus system and the process, watching legislators, being very close with my legislators and many others on the Hill, and watching them and the choices that they make and the decisions that they make, why they make them. Representative government is the way to go. That we do not want to be in a mob rule state. We want to hold people accountable through the voting ballot. We want to, if we feel like someone is not representing us well, elect someone else. Don't elect that person. Hold them accountable at the ballot box. And we don't realize sometimes too that there's a lot of planning and work and effort that goes into that, and it takes a long time. You can't just, remove somebody overnight. So if you want to hold somebody accountable, start the process now, figure out where you're going, and eventually you can accomplish that. And I don't like that mentality of all is lost, or burn it to the ground, or I just really feel like there are solutions. I'm a little bit more of an optimist in that sense, but I also see the strategy and sense in, hey, these are the steps to accomplish what we want to accomplish. Let's execute on that. It's going to take a lot of work. Let's find some volunteers. Let's convince people that we feel like would be on our side on this. Let's convince them of that. Let's give them the knowledge that we need. Let's go out there and accomplish something. And let's not just, let's not try to burn it to the ground just because we aren't accomplishing what we think we want.
The world's doomed. It's all given up. You all are horrible.
Right.
There's not a single good politician out there, and that's just not true.
Right.
There's too many really, really good-hearted people that are in the House, that are in the Senate, but there is a lot of them that are really good-hearted in a lot of good areas, but then there's just one or 2 points where they're very, very liberal on other things.
And that is where I would like, one of the reasons I do want to become a senator is I do feel that Utah in general, and I'm not talking about just the legislature or just the people or just the party or just, whatever that is. I'm saying just in general, from what I've seen, that we lack a lot of strategies in lots of different areas.
Yeah.
And if we could come together on some strategy, if we could unite, a few groups together and start working towards something, we can accomplish a lot more. And so I'm more focused on those kinds of things. And I that's what I want to try to bring to the table, be a legislator that still comes to all the party events and party meetings and is trying to rally and unite and work with all of the constituents constantly.
Well, you made a really good point that we're not supposed to get ruled by mob rule.
Right.
And a lot of people don't understand that terminology. And I get these comments all the time. And there's Glenn Beck and Matt Walsh and all these others and Charlie Kirk when he was out in the street. They got this all the time. Well, we're a democracy. No. Democracy is mob rule. That means the majority wins, and the founding fathers specifically designed it so that it wouldn't be the mob rule, wouldn't be the majority, that the minorities and those who have less power wouldn't get steamrolled and stomped on and destroyed.
Yep.
Which is why we are a constitutional republic. And as shocking as this is, that it's just not being taught very well in schools.
Right.
And people are like, what's a constitutional republic? What do you mean by that? What is that? I thought we were just a democracy. And there's a big difference between the two, and most people don't understand that.
Yeah, mob rule is a term. It really is interchangeable with a democracy, pure democracy, like we want to call it. And we often forget that, there's a constitution in place that protects us from that. Make sure that we still make good decisions. I mean, one of the best examples of that was getting rid of slavery, right? If you let the majority decide everything, we end up not having the country we have today. It's just what it is.
Not even remotely close, because there's a reason why we're called the flyover states.
Right.
In a presidential election, if it was pure democracy, pure mob rule, the presidents would go to New York, they'd go to California, they'd go to Texas, they'd go to Florida.
That's it.
And that's it.
Yeah.
That was it. Nobody else would matter. Not a single other person would matter.
And that's one of the reasons that we should be so grateful for the setup of our representative government, the way that we have it, where we have a Senate that represents a larger portion of areas, and then you have the House districts that are much smaller and represent a more core. So you're going to have two sentiments. Hopefully, the idea and the concept was that you would have two different sentiments in the House and the Senate. That the House is more detailed on how they are representing their constituents, and senators are going to have a little bit more of a broad representative time where they're covering, maybe 3 to 5, 6 House districts within their Senate district, that they've got a lot more to cover. And so they're going to have a more macro approach on their decisions on some bills, where the House should have a more detailed approach on representative government, right? That's the whole concept of what it is. And so that's where what we're seeing with Prop 4, why that, kind of going back to that, why that's so important, is if we're sitting here taking away and giving that what was constitutionally given to the legislature, if we're starting to chip at that and wield that towards where they don't have the control that they used to, they don't have that control anymore, we're kind of lost. And if you don't respect representative government and you want that true democracy just because you don't like the way that it's going right now, that'll bite you in the butt later on. It's not good.
And people don't understand that. They think that the rhetoric out there, what mainstream media wants to push out there is, the legislature is gerrymandering. And they don't see that, the gerrymandering is specifically from these outside special interest groups that came in here, sued the state, and created this activist judge that sided the way she does. Because what they have to understand is the way that the districts were aligned, every representative had a little city, downtown, hardcore city areas. They had rural, so they had a mix of both, which forced them to represent both
rural and
city.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also made sure that every one of them had a little bit of military, because we have a lot of military bases. You got Hill Air Force Base. Yeah, you got down in the north end of Utah County there. You got what's going on in out in the Twila Valley out there. There's a lot of military stuff going on here. You got even the little bit with the not the Blackhawks, but the Apaches down in right in the heart of the Salt Lake Valley down there. So you have to have downtown, hard city areas. You got to have rural. You got to have a little bit of military. So
otherwise those areas are going to miss that representation. They're missing out on another House rep that they could have representing their area.
But it gets rid of the mob rule, right? If you have just so concentrated, then it's mob rule. And that's what they wanted. They wanted to draw a circle around Salt Lake and say, no, this is going to be a district. Everybody know that's pretty hardcore Democrat. And then they want to put out this narrative. No, it's mob rule because the Republicans are winning in this state, and we're not getting any representation. Yeah, it's a conservative state.
That's how it's voted in. That's what our Constitution states. I mean, we are following the Constitution. This is how it ends up. And what's really hard is Prop 4 from its very beginning was meant to be advisory. Somehow that changed. Not when it was voted in 2018, it was intended to be in advisory, and now we're at a place where it's demanding and by law required that these things have to be followed, where the judge picked a map that didn't even follow Prop 4. It's just,
Well, I know
just
for a
insane.
fact that the reason why propositions like that are put across, or like SB 54 is put across, is because people with deceiving minds, with an alternative agenda in the back of their minds, know where they can lead that, know where they can direct that.
yeah.
They come out with this positive spin where, well, we're going to have more influence, we're going to have more people giving a voice to this, it's going to be better for the state. Is not going to be just a set group within the legislature or the House that is deciding this thing. We're going to have some outside opinions coming, and they just paint these really good pictures of, well, this is just so good, and everybody's so naive and thinking, well, that's a pretty good opinion. I kind of agree with that. That kind of sounding good, but in the back of their mind, they're thinking, the second you go down this road, I know for a fact that I can bring in outside influences, outside money, and just push that committee wherever I want to go. I can gerrymander it and figure out, because it's not an elected board, how to get specific people onto that will do what I want them to do.
Right.
Whereas an elected people can't do that because they're elected, right? And
Their
then they know for a
accountability is
fact,
to the people, and people that are appointed are not accountable to the people. It's just that's just
a fact. And then the second, everybody notices that you're not doing exactly what they thought you were doing, and you were doing actually what you had planned out the whole entire time. The second they start pulling that power from you, then the rhetoric comes out, you're gerrymandering, now you're going against the Constitution, now you're going against the word of the people. And we saw that as people getting signatures out there, that it's so much narrative out there. You're going against the word of the people. And then they bring the courts into it.
yes.
And they know for a fact that they can legislate from the bench.
And that's another problem that we've had. We wouldn't have this problem if, as a conservative majority in the state, had been appointing conservative judges that would uphold the Constitution the correct way, rather than trying to figure out what way or the other that they can just be an activist and somehow legally get by using, in this case, a law to remedy and override the Constitution. It's tough.
Well, it's crazy what she did, because as a judge, the judicial branch of our government, you have the ability, the authority, the right to decide if something's constitutional, yes or no, right?
Right.
That's the extent of your authority. Constitutional, yes or no, right? If it's not constitutional, then you send it back to the executive branch or back to the legislative branch and say, this isn't constitutional, you guys need to fix this. But instead, you see this here within the state of Utah, and you saw it even more with Trump nationally, where a judge says, okay, this is not constitutional, I'm going to now take legislative powers and decide what we're going to do. We're going to decide on the map, or we're going to decide not to let Trump do this, or we're going to decide that the state can't have an abortion law. I'm going to decide the law now.
Yeah.
And
they need to stay within their
setting
bounds.
it back up, they legislate from the bench.
Yeah, they need to stay within their bounds, and when they're not staying with their bounds, there is very much precedence in the past on the federal level and somewhat on the state level, where you see the other two branches of government going, you know what, we see the Constitution very differently. We feel that you are not following the Constitution with that ruling, so we are going to continue to follow the Constitution and bypass or ignore that ruling. That's happened so many times in the past. We struggle with that right now. We have a situation with our lieutenant governor's office, who is choosing to accept the map by a judge over accepting the map by the legislature. Following the Constitution, she could follow the Constitution, Article 9, Section 1, and say, you know what?
Pound sand.
This is how we're going to do it. I'm going to accept the map from the legislature, because that's what the Constitution says.
And it's shocking to me that how much or how fearful both the executive branch and the legislative branches have become of the judicial branch, because the rhetoric out in the media is you're going against a judge, you're going against the court system, you're going against the Constitution, you're going against the people, and they spin this thing when legally, constitutionally, they could literally just said to this judge, pound sand, it's not your authority.
Because if we go back and we understand the Constitution and the interpretation of some of our founding fathers and what they've said about it, I mean, we can go back to Alexander Hamilton, and something that he said was he feels that the judicial branch, out of the three branches of government, have the least amount of power, least amount of influence and authority, because they don't have the ability to enforce their rulings. They just don't. That is not within their purview. You have the executive branch that has the enforcement power. You have the legislative branch that has the power of the purse. Those two authorities are far. Those two powers are far more powerful than just.
And everybody wants to have this thing that they're three equal branches of the law. But yeah, executive enforces the law. They're the police, the Homeland Security, the military, all fall underneath the executive. And then you have the legislative branch that creates the law. And then the judicial branch that only deciphers it, decides yes or no, constitutional, yes or no, not constitutional. But now you got a judicial branch that is usurping power over the executive branch and trying to enforce the law and take onto themselves the enforcement of the law by overpowering governors, the president consistently, as well as the legislative branch, and say, well, you guys aren't legislating this correctly. As a judge, I'm just going to legislate from the branch. So now you have this dominant judicial branch that is far usurping authority over everything.
Yep.
It is no longer co-equal branches. It's a judicial branch, and then kind of off to the side is the executive and legislative branches. But the narrative's so thick there that nobody sees it.
Right. And one of the things that's really hard, and it's not that the judicial branch shouldn't be respected, and it shouldn't be. I want to make sure that that's understood. That it's not that the judicial branch doesn't have any power whatsoever or anything like that. There are some times though that they are in clear violation of the Constitution. That needs to be called out. That needs to be said. But at the end of the day, if we don't understand how the Constitution was laid out so that these three branches of government could go back and forth, could, push back on one another, or two gang up on one. I mean, that's how it was written. Let's watch that play out. Let's see some of those things play out. And when there is a conservative majority or a Democrat majority, we've seen that happen in other states. For some reason, we're not letting that play out and watch.
Well, there's no back and forth anymore.
Full function in Utah.
If the judicial branch decides something, the conversation's over.
Yeah, and that's it. And it seems it tends to be like that. We've seen, at least I've felt this way with the media. If it goes on their side, they tend to support that. If it goes against it, they're against it. But what we're not seeing is a fairness of, hey, let's see how the branches of government handle this. Let's watch them play this out and do it the way that they want to do it. And we tend to attack one branch or the other.
Again, nice judicial branch, respect your authority. Decide. Constitutional, yes or no.
Right.
And if it's not, kick it back over to the judicial branch.
Right.
Fix it. In the conversation. Your conversation, whatever you're doing, your judgment is over at that point. It's a yes or no question, right?
Yeah.
It's not, I'm going to write this big response and say, no, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Even today with the tariffs that came out today, the Supreme Court says, no, that's not constitutional. And they both had comments, and they all defended the Constitution as to why it's constitutional or not. That's how it should have been, right? Whether it went against Trump or was for Trump, they decided. They didn't start going around and saying, we're now going to substitute that and start creating these tariffs over here. We're going to change these tariffs over here. They didn't start deciding the tariffs in the Supreme Court.
Right.
They just said, no, that's not constitutional. You're going to have to pull back on that. Go fix it. Now, President Trump can go back and, well, I can't use that law because he's using a specific law to be able to put out those tariffs. And now he's got to find another law to do it, and they can take it back to the Supreme Court again. But he's fixing it. Whereas here in Utah, she's like, well, that's not constitutional. I'm going to fix it.
Right. Right.
That's the problem.
That is a major problem. With the Trump's tariffs, just to, quickly talk on that, it is a very interesting thing because while I do feel what Trump is doing is necessary and needed, it probably is correct that it is unconstitutional from the sense that that is not the executive branch's ultimate power, where that should be within where it's defined as more in the power of the person and dealing with the legislature. The legislature can execute on that and it would be totally constitutional. The problem is what we're seeing now with how partisan our legislature has been. And I know it's been that way for a long time, but it's more partisan than it's ever been these last few decades. I don't see them handling it the way that our national security requires it. So that makes it really tough, right? So what we have here and what a lot of people are seeing, and what I think you end up seeing is a lot of Republicans out there are wanting Trump to handle it because he knows how to handle it and does it the right way, even though the Supreme Court is ruling it unconstitutional, which it probably is because of where that power lies. Nobody can trust the legislature to do their job and handle that in the correct way. And that makes it frustrating for everybody, right?
And everybody knows it's just not going to get done.
It's just not going to get done.
We're not going to get done.
And we're going to suffer because of that.
And the Founding Fathers kind of set things up. They would rather have gridlock than something being steamrolled. They designed it like that.
Correct.
But you're right. It's gotten to a point where it's moving beyond like gridlock. It's like literally nothing's getting done. It's so...
How long can we last with that? And 'cause another example is the immigration reform. What we do love about what Trump is doing is he's secured the border. He's kicking people out. Those are important things in order to make sure we have a working, thriving, don't get into too much debt nation. Those are those first steps. Here's our problem, though, is now that that's taken place and we needed to stop the leak first, but now we've got to make sure that it never happens again. What's our immigration policy right now to where people can do it in a timely order? There's so many people that I know that they have a spouse or they have a family member or they know somebody that has been going through the correct process, but it's been years.
Well, they're definitely speeding that up.
There's definitely speeding that up
Since
now.
Trump's got into office, that's gone like super, super fast.
It's not fast enough, though. There's still people.
Well,
that's what's tough.
It's gone super fast because my wife just became a U.S. citizen a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Just swore in. And I've got lots of her friends of swearing in. And we were on that list for years waiting for it. And the second that Trump got into office and started cleaning this up, we went from literally told us we had an 18-month wait down to less than 30 days.
That's great news.
It was all of a sudden we got the letter in the mail. You're going to be swearing in a month. We're like, what? We were told it was 18 months out.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
And then her best friend calls her up and she says, I just got my letter. I'm going to be sworn in 2 months. I'm like, what?
So that's great news.
And then
I'm seeing a lot of other people still, and maybe that's going to happen with them too. And I'm really excited for that.
They're putting more people towards it.
But our immigration policy definitely needs to, it's not that they shouldn't be letting everybody in, but we need to have clear definitions. We need to understand what's going on. And then we got to be prepared as a nation to be able to receive people. So if we're not prepared to receive, the oncoming of 10,000 legal immigrants,
I don't care if we have a million of them.
We gotta have our ducks in order to receive people. It's just what it is.
I don't care if we have 1 million or 2 million. Is the amount is not necessarily the concern I have. It's, are they assimilating?
Right.
Are they going through the learning process? Because everybody I know that have gone through that process, they understand what the U.S. Constitution is. They understand what freedom is. They understand the wars we fought and how many people have died, the men who have died to give us the rights that we have. I mean, we sing that all the time.
It's better for them. It's better for us. All the way around.
They love the country. They're proud about it. That's a simulation. That's what we want. And then not only that, but they're not on food stamps. They're not on WIC. They're not on Medicaid. They're not draining from the taxpayers when they come in the right way.
I think it was Reagan's last speech that he gave where he said, you can move to France, but you'll never become a Frenchman. You can move to Japan, you'll never become a Japanese. If you move to Germany, you'll never become a German, but you move to America and you can become an American.
You can become
That's one of the most powerful things that almost any president has ever said, because that is very unique to our nation compared to any other nation. I mean, it is a very unique thing. But that can't happen if you don't want to be part of and assimilate into the country. It makes it very difficult, especially if you don't come here legally, right? Yeah. Makes it really difficult. But I always look back to that quote.
You have no appreciation. You have entitlement mentality. All of it.
I look back to that quote and go, "Wow, that we are powerful because of how this nation came to be with immigrants." The immigrants that we bring over, the ones that come over legally and become citizens and assimilate properly, they end up being Americans, and we don't consider them immigrants anymore once that's happened.
Which is sad, because I see people that have immigrated legally that are more proud, more valiant, more patriotic than a lot of just
and I don't understand it. It's hard to understand, and everybody's got, can have their feelings on it and feel the way they want about it. But it's really hard to understand why you would want to be here in the first place if it wasn't
the greatest country. I'll give you a case in point. So there's a lot going on right now with socialism. Socialism is a big push. There's full-blown communists in New York right now. And there's a lot of this crap going on. And you'll have immigrants that are coming from the Baltics, from the Eastern European nations, Ukraine, Yugoslavia, the Czech Republic, all these, Poland. And they're coming over here and said, we just came from socialists. I came here to escape from that. You don't understand what you're going to do to this country. And I've literally seen tears in their eyes when they're talking about it. You don't understand what we went through.
Carlos Moreno is a good example of that.
To get away from socialism. And now you guys are putting it out there like that's the answer. What are you guys doing? We dreamed of America. We dreamed of coming to the United States. It was everything we could do to come over here and be free of this. And now you're pointing us to that direction, and they're literally crying.
Right.
And then you've got these protesters out in the street that says, we want free stuff. We want socialism. We want health care for all. And
while filming everything on their iPhone.
Burning an American flag.
Yeah.
Hey.
No, it's a tough thing. But to get to kind of Utah, one of the things that I envision for Utah is being a leader in everything we can. There's a lot of statistics out there that I don't know if you've seen, but an example was COVID numbers. Okay. It was a weird stat, but we're at the top of where we had the least amount of deaths per capita. We had our health in Utah is a great thing to celebrate. Mm-hmm. We do a lot of things and have a lot of different behaviors that create a healthy lifestyle. That's one way we are, in the way I view it, as leading compared to the other states in our union. And so, but there's a lot of other things that we can be a leader on. And one of those could be nuclear. One of those could be, one of those is right now is our economy here. We have one of the best economies, which is why we're thriving so much, why our housing prices are increasing, why everybody wants to live here. We have a thriving economy comparatively to everyone. Even when things are going bad, it's still decent.
Well, those reports have come out that we're like the number one growing economy per capita, per population, because obviously there's bigger economies out there like Texas and Florida, but when you count it per population, we're the fastest growing economy in the country right now. It's
Not even close.
there's like 3 different studies that have come out on that. The only downside, the only problem that Utah's having is housing.
Yes.
It is housing. But we've got a unique issue here, too, that we have to take into consideration because we all live in these very, very small valleys. We're not a Phoenix or a Denver that can just keep on sprawling. We got mountain ridges and lakes on all sides of us. You have to drive miles to get around the other side of mountains. And so there's an issue there. And so to be able to bring down the housing prices it's a big problem here in our state because
Big problem.
the land keeps going up.
The land keeps going up. Because there's only so much of it. And like you said, we can only expand west or east so far. North and south, we're kind of been doing that along the I-15, and we've used that road to its max capacity. We've widened it in my opinion, as far as we should widen it. We should be growing and expanding elsewhere to not put more pressure on that road, and start trying to connect in different ways across mountain ranges, into different valleys, and start exploring a little bit of how we do want to try to spread ourselves out. I don't know if you've been across along the I-80, but you go out the I-80 all the way out to Wendover, there's a lot of land. There's a lot of beautiful country out there. That's a great freeway. Why aren't we expanding out that way? You know, different approaches that we should be taking. But at the end of the day, if most everywhere else you go that has decent traffic, they have roads that can get you from one place to another per however many miles it is. That's how many minutes it takes to drive there. And that should be the standard throughout our entire state. We should be able to, for instance, I live in Eagle Mountain. It is about 41 to 43 miles, depending on the crow flies, to Salt Lake City. It should take me 40 to 45 minutes to drive there. I can tell you it does not. It is one of the worst areas in the state traffic-wise, and it's something that we're dealing with, constantly dealing with, while we're watching roads go up in other areas that do not have the same population growth that Eagle Mountain and Saratoga Springs have. And it's tough. If you go out to Tooele, they have the 36 freeway. It's brutal. Their drive is brutal out there. The way that it's planned, we also don't see a end in sight on how to fix that and how to change that permanently so that it can expand and grow the way that it needs to. I mean, it's one of their main streets that goes right down Tooele City. How are you going to turn their main street into a freeway, right? You got to somehow divert that go around. It's going to create a lot of traffic, but they're constantly building out there instead of other areas, right? So we've got Mountain West Corridor that's going up the whole west side of Salt Lake County right now. That's going to do wonders. That's going to help so many. It's actually going to help a lot of people in Utah County as well, because that's going to be another option. And rather than going the I-15, you can go up the other side, hit the 80, and go over to Salt Lake and not waste too much time. Probably get there faster depending on the hours of traffic, right? That the problem is that all of these roads that we're talking about, they should have been built 20 years ago. They should have been built. The infrastructure should have been there already so that everything can grow. But we didn't do that. Now, when we're building right now, I don't know if you've been on recently, the 2100 in Lehigh. This is an example. 2100 in Lehigh. That road was built. I think this is it's going to be its third or fourth iteration for connecting the I-15 to
Like seriously, why didn't they just make it a freeway in the first place?
Why didn't they make it? They would have back in the day when it didn't cost as much.
Why did they make it a 2-lane road that had stoplights and everything?
And then build schools right around it. What are we doing? So we look at this situation and go, are we going to learn from this? We could have built that road 20 years ago. We knew it was going to grow that. Anybody that says we didn't know what the population would be, what it is today, that they're lying to you. We all knew that this was going to happen.
This north-south vision, but nobody
No
had
east-west vision.
No east.
And that's the only way we can build houses now if we really want to do that. So we got the 2100 here. If we had built that road to a freeway back 20 years ago, the cost would have been way cheaper considering inflation now of what it's going to cost now to build it. So did we save money? Did we have the money? We probably didn't. Well, what's more of a priority? The roads, getting that infrastructure built so that we can save that money for later? Are we looking financially going, how much money would we have saved that we wouldn't have today? So did we prioritize correctly so that we could have that gap?
To build the road once or 3 times.
Exactly. And a lot of the times it's because, we don't have the money right now.
Build it right the first time.
Well, if we don't have the money right now, we gotta look at what we're spending, guys. We are that fast of a growing state. We've got to be bugging like crazy our federal government to show that we are one of the most expansive states out there right now. We've got to have the infrastructure. You're giving it to other states like California and whatnot. They're able to build bridges like crazy.
California is blowing it. Their whole train thing out there.
They're doing so many different things.
You know that was nothing but embezzlement on that high-speed rail that was supposed to go from San Francisco, and
That doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist. What could the state of Utah done with that kind of money?
Right.
That was trillions.
Right. And so what we're looking at here is, are we going to change that behavior? Are we going to look at and figure this out financially? Or we're going to pro forma this out to where we understand where the money is now, where it's going to be later if we do certain things now, those gaps that we can cover in the future. So if we had built this freeway from the beginning to be, let's say it was just a 3-lane road, but it had bridges and everything and went through, but we spent, all the money that we needed to get that done. I don't even know what the amount is, but that money would not need to be done right now. And that could be spent towards all the things that we had to deprioritize before, right? We're not thinking like that. We're not thinking in a preventative and a prepared way. We're thinking in a reactionary way.
Well, I would completely agree with that, because you look at the Pioneer Crossing in Lehigh, and you look at the 21st North Crossing, those should have been built out as no stoplight, full-on freeways from the beginning, because they're just going to have to rebuild them. And now, how they built it and they let everybody develop right up to it, how are you going to fit a freeway in there now without buying houses and demoing houses, which is going to make it that much more expensive because the state's got to procure all these brand new houses. It's the same thing in the Salt Lake Valley. You've got the 215 belt route, and then you got Bangor that's getting to become a full-fledged freeway, and it's freeway in some areas. There's still stoplights in the area. But getting from 215 to Bangor, or from Bangor to the Mountain View corridor, there's no east-west. None. And I don't know why they haven't done it yet, but why haven't they just bought roads and houses and just started demoing houses and get us a freeway that starts connecting these east-west things? Because the longer the wait,
the more expensive. Every time, the more expensive it's going to be. You're going to
have to build an east-west freeway.
You're going to have to. So when are you going to prioritize it? And so what it ends up doing, and this is the frustrating thing, is it puts a tax, a totally hidden tax on the people. So from my house to the I-15, to give you an idea, there are 26 stoplights. 26 stoplights on a state road. On a state road, no less, okay? 26 stoplights to get from my house. That is unheard. I don't know. I think that is the record for the state of Utah. I don't know if anyone else. The fastest way to the I-15 if it takes them that long, okay?
No.
Or if they have that many stoplights. Every time I have to stop and go, I'm not only wasting my time, but also gas. Yeah. Okay?
And then when the inversion comes around,
we're all stopping and going. We're pressing on that gas, and every time if we were just going at a steady speed the entire time, like on a freeway, you don't waste as much gas. So now that adds up over time, but that's a little bit of a tax that's added to me. Not only is that a tax, but then if I'm in rush hour traffic and it takes an extra half an hour to an hour to get home, that's a time tax. That's time that is money that is
from your wife and kids.
I'm not able to spend with my family. When I'm not able to spend that with my family, what happens with that? Well, that I could have spent that time maybe helping my child with homework and helping them learn how to read. We have such a hard reading problem. Well, maybe it's because parents are stuck on the road and they're not able to spend that time with their kids reading and education so that they can be better in school. We hear this huge, reading problem in third grade level programs that they have now. What are we doing about that? I mean, it's all related in that sense. And I point that out in these hidden taxes that we don't realize when every single time they put up another stoplight and not a bridge, what are we doing? What are we doing here? And now, don't get me wrong, I get that a bridge costs way more than a stoplight. But at the end of the day, the bridge needs to be built one way or the other. It's going to be built. Are you going to build it now in 2026 where the cost is fixed at this price? Or are you going to build it in 20 years from now when the cost is inflated to double?
Yeah.
When does that make sense? When are we looking at all of that? Those are the questions that everybody wants the transparency on, wants to understand that process, how it's moving along, and nobody's seeing it. That's the problem.
We had our podcast with Senator Harper last week, and he's the Taylorsville, a little bit of Magna. I know he's in the Courage area, so I think he abuts right up to your area, right?
Okay.
And he's on the transportation committee right now, and we discuss roads. And so there are some roads that are going to be going in the Saratoga Springs, Eagle Mountain area, but they're not even slated to even start construction. Not even start construction until end of 27 going into 28.
Right. And we needed them 10 years ago.
And we needed a, yeah.
And so I was talking with the UTA and Department of Transportation and MAG not too long ago, which MAG is is the federal group down in our Utah County and I think a little bit of Wasatch County that takes a little bit of the federal spending and allocates it towards special roads and things, which they're helping us with one right now in Eagle Mountain that we're trying to get in there to help us connect to Mountain View Corridor in a different way. So I met with DOT and UTA and MAG, and I asked them, if you had all the money to do everything that you wanted to, how fast could we get this done? And he's like, well, it still wouldn't be done for 10 years. Still wouldn't be done for 10 years.
What was the reason behind that?
Not because of the way that it's been delayed and how much of demand it is all across the country. We don't have enough people to do it. We don't have enough people to build it even. So even if we threw a ton of money at it.
You're talking contractors or you're talking
contractors?
Contractors even get it
to just build it because, they can only build so fast and so much, right? And we have so much that needs to be done. So even if they had the money, which they don't, so it's one problem after the other. When are we going to start? And what it really comes down to, though, is prioritization. If there is a road being built anywhere in Utah that is not in Saratoga Springs, Eagle Mountain, or Washington County, or 36 Freeway in Tooele, what are you doing? What are you doing? Build it. And then move on to the rest. There should not be $1 going anywhere else right now until those roads are full for the residents of those cities.
Yeah.
You have Tooele City that's dealing with every single day. But only the people of Tooele get to feel that. Only the people of Saratoga Springs and Eagle Mountain get to feel that. Only the people of Washington County get to feel that. Everybody else gets their roads. They're not suffering with the same kind of traffic, and it just kind of goes by the wayside is what it feels like.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what it feels like. Well, the other issue as they start these roads is if they don't plan it early and they just let developers develop, because they will. Developers are going to start just building houses. So the developers are moving faster than the state is. And then they just develop right up to the existing roads, and then there's no way
to expand,
to widen, to put in a freeway. There's just
a lot of us are looking at this new phase 1 of Mountain West Corridor that they just built, and you have houses on either side, which force 2 lights to go already on Mountain View Corridor, which eventually will have to be bridges. So
Going to have to have on and off ramps. It's going to have full free.
How did they not design it in a way that covers for that? They knew that was going to happen, and if they didn't, why did they let it happen? there was two things.
Both of this fault of the city as well as the state
Correct.
to not
Correct.
plan on a buffer there.
Correct. And that is one thing that is kind of tough. Cities should be accountable for city roads. County should be accountable for county roads. State should be accountable for state roads, and federal should be accountable for federal
But the
roads.
cities have to.
But the cities have to take care of the state and county roads. Yeah, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit wonky. Why are they doing
master
that?
plan them in, and they're not even master planning them in.
But also, why are cities in control of being? Why are they able to put a stoplight up on a state road in their city? That to me doesn't make sense. That's where that becomes a little bit tough for me. It creates this massive problem where the city is solving a state problem with a stoplight. That it doesn't work. We're not functioning.
Or
that way.
where Lehigh is not working with Saratoga Springs and Eagle Mountain, because all the traffic goes through the Lehigh area, and they're not city planning in, zoning in.
And what's tough
they
is
a freeway system, and they're letting everything just get developed within the city because it's city property. Let's just develop right up to it. The state's going to have to worry about it later. It's not my problem. If they have to go and buy it later, it's the state's problem. It's not the city's problem.
One of the things I learned growing up as a kid, and particularly in Scouts, was to be prepared. And particularly when it comes to my feet. You do not want to be out in a situation where your feet are incredibly uncomfortable and makes you absolutely miserable, makes the rest of the day absolutely miserable. So you have to go out there in the right equipment, whether that's hiking in the mountains, whether that's fishing on the stream, it's working out in your garden or out in the yard, or it's going out on the town or to the nearest rodeo in a nice pair of boots. You have to go out prepared so you look good, feel good, and most importantly, it is comfortable. Because again, there's nothing like being miserable walking around all day long. We want to introduce you to 3 different companies that are supporting this channel. We have Durango Boots, which provides the best Western wear and boots that money can buy. So you'll have the look, the feel that you want. There's also Rocky Boots for that great mountain wear, that hiking wear, and just getting out into nature and being prepared for what you're confronting. And then there's Mucky Boots or Muck Boots, which will provide the perfect waterproofing that you need for fishing, hunting, and again, getting out in the yard and working in the mud. These are great companies that supply a great pair of boots for you for any need, for any occasion. So again, go to the link in our description or click on the QR code that's coming up on your screen for any of these great sites, whether it's Western wear, whether it's the outdoor wear and getting up into the hills and the mountains, or whether it's muck wear that you need to be able to work around the garden or go fishing or hunting and not walk around it with wet feet. These are great products at great prices that will keep you perfectly comfortable all day at the same time that you're looking good. So trust these products, whether it's Durango, whether it's Muck Boots, or whether it's Rocky Mountain Boots or Rocky Boots, and go to those sites using the link in our description or QR code that's popping up on your screen. Again, the link in the description or QR code that's popping up on your screen, and support our channel.
So what happens now too, and you bring up a great point, you have 2 cities that disagree on something. The rest of Utah gets to suffer because they're fighting. That doesn't make sense. What's going on there? How do 2 cities get to decide what's going on? And if they can't, or they end up deciding, or they're able to hijack something, or they're able to,
Pass the buck.
the buck, not all these different nobody wins out of that situation. Everybody suffers. Why are we leaving it up to 2 cities to decide? That's what that is.
Which
very
is
difficult.
why we have legislators and House people that represent more than
just one city or the other. They can kind of oversee and look at a problem holistically, what benefits everybody in those 2 cities, and not be as biased compared to somebody that lives in a particular city, right? It just makes sense that way. So it makes it really hard. Other states are structured differently. Other states that are structured differently don't have as many problems as we do with our congestion and the way that we handle state roads and county roads and federal roads. It's it makes it really tough. So we're seeing this kind of all over the state. It's not just in our area. The problem with our area is that we have such a massive population out there that is so just in Eagle Mountain and Saratoga Springs alone, to give you an idea, is around 150, a little over 150,000 people now. Okay.
It's the only convenient place to build to expand. It's
the only, you can't,
everything else is mountain range.
Yeah. You don't want to build a skyrise that houses, 1,000 people in it that is right next to the I-15 in Vineyard. You're just going to add so much traffic onto the I-15 that it can't handle because there's nowhere else to expand. So the only way to expand is responsibly is out west, and we're not building the roads out there to get there. You go into Summit County, Park City, Heber, down to Heber, there's a road, there's freeways, there's interpasses, there's bridges everywhere you go out there. They don't have the population of Eagle Mountain and Saratoga Springs. They just don't. Now, do we want it out there for tourism, and do we want it out there to make us look good for, the Olympics and different things like that? Of course we do. We do want to do that, but guess what? The people that are suffering on these roads in Tooele County and in Utah County, they're living with it every single day.
Yeah,
they're suffering every day.
When you look at the Ochre Range,
yes,
there's only 2 places where you can go west.
Yes,
There's two. There's 2 unless you go down to Nephi.
Right.
There's 2. That's the Eagle Mountain area, and that's the Tooele area.
Yeah.
There's 2.
Yeah, 2.
And they're not
And we're not prepping for it.
either of them.
No, we're not prepping for it. We're other cities, you have different metropolises throughout the United States. Salt Lake City either is trying to be it or it shouldn't be it. If we're not going to build the roads to expand out and create the infrastructure needed so that it can be a functioning metropolis, we shouldn't be doing it. To just stop building altogether. What are we doing? Obviously, we can't stop building. Obviously, we got to, we don't. That would drive housing prices like crazy. But we do have to have the infrastructure, and if we have to figure some way to build that. And I don't think that there's enough priority or urgency in figuring that out and preparing us for the future, because we're not stopping growing. It's going to get worse and worse. Everybody is going to want to move here. Why?
Well, everybody wants to move down to Eagle Mountain because nobody wants to live next to the lake.
Yeah.
Because the lake stinks,
Right.
especially during the summer when the brine comes up. And the path to get out to Tooele Valley, the distance between the lake and the Kennecott smelter there is like 100 yards. It's tiny. So getting out there is complicated. Expanding I-80 is going to be complicated, and then you got this massive Eagle Mountain Valley out there where Cold Fort is and everything, and everybody's looking at that's the expansion point. That entire valley out there is going to be nothing but houses and cities
And it's a massive valley.
It's a massive valley. It's going to be
massive valley, and it's all Eagle Mountain.
It's going to be nothing but businesses, but there's one little path out there, and for a fact from I-15 all the way through that point out to Eagle Mountain, it's going to be a full-fledged freeway with overpasses and on and off ramps.
Just when are we going to pay for it?
What are you planning?
Are we going to pay for it when it's more expensive, or are we going to pay for it now in preparation so that we don't have to pay more expensive later?
That's why I'm upset with Pioneer Crossing, because they should have just steamrolled that thing and just taken it clear out to Cold Fort and just made it just a full-fledged freeway right out the gate.
Right.
6 lanes.
Yeah. Have a different option rather than just the I-15. I mean, it's a problem that we're going to deal with for a long time unless somebody, kind of figures this out. But another one that I just, we talk about it, again, still the urgency doesn't exist.
It should look like the I-80 201 interchange in Salt Lake should be that American Fork Pioneer Crossing that headed out there.
And a lot of us talk about it now. It used to not be as much of a thing, and we kind of goffed at it and didn't make much sense, and even many people against it. But building a road across the lake,
Well, I asked Harper
people
about
are
that.
starting to talk about that now, and people are wanting to understand if that's a real viability, because guess what? We're getting desperate. We need something. We need to go a different way. We can't just.
I was born and raised in Provo, right there next to the airport down there, the Provo dock area. So I would ride my bike down there as a kid. We'd play on the docks in the river all the time. And from the time I was a teenager, they've been talking about that causeway. But Harper specifically told us that the state has no consideration doing it. They're looking at private corporations doing that only and having that as like a toll, so that some private corporation come and build it and then get their money back through making that a toll road. I'm like, so why doesn't the state just plan on doing it? He's like, I don't know. No one's talking about it.
So there's the thing we need to start talking about, and it's not because we need to do it. It's because we need to figure out what all of our options are, and
it's not like
prioritize and figure out.
Like the lake's what, 15 feet deep?
Well, the problem with that is we actually don't know where the bedrock is, so they need to do those studies to figure out
on it, but
they need to figure out how deep it is, right?
But they're still not talking like a 100-foot deep lake.
No, I don't think it would be that deep. But that brings us to the next point, and I really want to talk about this, is that we don't have enough urgency on it, to be real. I mean, there is some urgency, and we hear about it every once in a while. There's still not enough urgency on it. We are running out of water. If you go 100 years from now, and especially the growth that we're going to have, there's not enough water in this desert for the people that we're going to have. It doesn't exist. We have to figure out something else. Not only can we not rely on the dry and wet years to be more wet than they normally are, we cannot rely on that because of a year like we're having right now. If we have 5 of those years, we're done for. We've got to look at opportunities elsewhere to pipe water in. Yeah. And that hasn't been discussed. That's got to be done.
Well, we sell way too much water because there's that Utah, Colorado, Nevada, California compact, and we've given up way too much of our water. And they can pull it no matter what happens. I mean, the way that compact is written, it doesn't matter how low the lakes are, they can still pull the same amount. It's not based off a percentage.
Right.
They can just,
and they're in a big, I don't know if you've heard about it, but they're the states in this compact, they're working together to try to figure out an agreement between them all. And they've missed their deadline twice.
Lake Powell looks bad.
And Lake Powell's a tough story. We can talk about that in a second, but they're trying to come up with something. I know Spencer Cox says he's optimistic. Governor Cox is optimistic as he's been in these meetings and as they try to come up with a solution for this. But and if they don't, the federal government's going to come in and tell them how it's going to be done, right? Then we really lose our opportunity here on that water. We don't utilize the Uinta water enough. We have the whole Uinta mountain range, and we do not utilize that. All of the water that exists up there, we get so much snow up there. There's so much that evaporates from there that we can build more reservoirs. We can pipe that water up into, I think it's 33% of the water shares in eastern, like Uinta, the Uinta Basin area, and a little bit more north from that, that don't get used. We just send it on down. Well, we need to not send that down. We need to somehow figure out a way to get that water over to the west side.
It's like our oil
of the state that
pipelines.
needs
We need
it.
to start piping it.
So we do it with natural gas. We do it with oil. Why aren't we doing it with water? I'm sure there's somebody across the country, like maybe Minnesota with 1,000 lakes out there, that they would love to sell some water to somebody that needs it in Utah or Nevada, right? Why don't we have this water interchange marketplace, just like we do right now in natural gas? You have these feeder lines, right? So I built the feeder line, the main lines in the Bakken Basin in North Dakota, Montana, natural gas lines. I ran the company and built these lines to take all of the natural gas from all of these different wells and pumped it over to the refineries. Okay. So now that anybody right now, when they go to drill a well, they pipe the natural gas into one of my already existing lines and eventually travels it all the way to the refinery. You build a main line so that then if people want to tap into it, they can put water into it and they can meter that. So they put it in, and this is the cost that however much water you put in per, acre foot, you get that, you get paid for that. And then somebody down the line, wherever it is, because that water, that pipe is continuous, they can take it out for the price that person put it in for, right?
Yep.
That we do that with natural gas. We do that with other earth minerals. Why aren't we doing that with water? And I know that's more of a federal thing. More that would take a ton of work. That would take a ton of time. But we got to start talking about it now. We have to start talking about it now. And if you look at the river system, we get just a little bit of those main river systems. You look at the river systems throughout the United States, everybody's got rivers. You know what states don't? Utah and Nevada. We're the two states that suffer with water. We're in deserts. Obviously, there's a reason for that. But if we're going to expand and we're going to have more people, we got to start thinking about that. And we aren't talking about that enough. We got to sit down.
California and Las Vegas got to think about alternative ways of getting water instead from us.
California has water. So when we say that California needs to do that, California already has water. They're just choosing not to take it because they want to protect a bug. They want to protect a little minnow, something.
We need to cut that off.
Their environmentalists prevent them from using the water that they have. So guess what they do? Just like with their energy, they don't want to produce coal energy in their state. So they get the energy from another state that produces coal.
They'd rather empty their reservoirs and have these massive fires.
They're doing the same thing with water. They're trying to pull water in from another state so they don't have to use theirs. And it's like, guys, that's got to stop. If we're not looking at that as a holistic, taking that as a holistic
do you think the
approach.
Utah Legislature can cut that off, or
no, it's
is
that
there going to be a bigger problem?
It's that we're not loud enough, and we're not bringing those concerns to the federal government enough and in a way that it makes sense for everybody. How does we need to start thinking in ways that these plans that we're talking about strategically benefit other states as well. Yeah. Well, if we do a marketplace and their farmers are able to put water that they don't use and get paid for the water that shares that they don't end up using, that could be a benefit to farmers. Let's figure that out. How does that work, and how can we make that beneficial for everybody, right? Then all of a sudden other states would be on board with something like that. And then now you get a national situation talking about the Farmers Association, all these people going, yeah, let's start talking and see how feasible this is financially, get a pro forma done, see how it works, and then make it happen, right? If we're not talking about these things, they'll never get done. They'll just, we'll sit on it for another year and another year and another 10 years and then 100 years from now, we're screwed.
Yeah. Well, I think it's funny how a lot of us here in Utah think, well, it's California's problem. They're not affecting us. The fires aren't affecting us. Their droughts aren't affecting us. I'm like, they are.
They are.
Because everybody knows that when they had those fires, right before that, Newsom literally emptied the lakes because of some endangered fish, right?
Yep.
They literally emptied them into the ocean. That's why everybody's pissed that those fires happened, because they couldn't get the water.
Yeah, they couldn't pump the water to put out the fires.
So now that they need water, they just suck it out of Lake Powell. They suck it out of Lake Mead. And Nevada suffers, Utah suffers because of their bad decisions. And
when they have so much water from the north that they could be piping down to the south, and they're choosing not to do it. They have plenty of water up there, but for some reason it's got to come from the Colorado. It's got to come from the Colorado River.
And then we suffer because we could be tapping into that water and just using it for our own people.
Yeah, we need it. We're a desert.
I mean, it's enough for us to be feeding Vegas, which we would have to, because they have no other source down in Vegas. But to feed California, that's asinine. I mean, why are we doing that?
Right.
And not only that, but you got Japan, who has these massive desalination plants.
Yes.
Massive desalination. They've got that perfected down there. California could do that, and we could take our Colorado back.
That's where we get into the nuclear discussion. Now, while water is, so we're going from one step to the next on how these problems exist and how we're trying to
How they
solve
bleed into
them.
other problems.
And how they bleed into other problems. Well, now we're coming into what could be potentially a solution for a lot of these things that we're talking about. One of the things that I wish that we would do, and that we are getting towards that path, I don't think that we're doing it efficiently enough. We could be doing it more efficiently. We could be the leader in nuclear power for the entire United States. Now, there are some people out there that feel that nuclear is scary.
I love the nuclear idea.
It sounds very scary because of Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island and a few other things. But we got to understand,
safest power out there.
it's the safest power out there, and we're not talking about those kinds of
And it's the
nuclear
cleanest.
plants. There is no other power source that is safer from producing it to using it than nuclear.
No.
Not even solar. Solar, there are more people that get killed putting up solar
The
panels.
stupidest thing I see right now is we have energy solutions way out there in the West Desert, right? They clean all this stuff. Why is there not a nuclear power plant sitting right next door to them?
It could be.
Just
There could be. And
if we already have them out there and they're cleaning everybody else's nuclear power, why don't we have one sitting literally a mile away from them and piping that power into?
one of the things is I wish that people knew how safe it was, and there are quite a few people that feel that it's unsafe and don't want a nuclear plant next to them. So
Well, out there, it wouldn't be next to anybody.
they feel that's still even too close. So here's the problem with that though, is it's not like it used to be. It's not the same. You would get more radiation from the sun than you would from this nuclear plant. These modular reactors that we're talking about. The other thing is the problems that existed in the previous nuclear reactors were that they were water cooled. Okay. Which we can't do that, and we should never. If anybody is trying to bring in a water-cooled nuclear reactor, get them out of their state. What are they thinking? We're in a desert. We do not have the water for it, and there's no need for it because there are so many reactors out there that use virtually no water in the generation process that we don't need.
They just flew a nuclear reactor into Hill Air Force Base yesterday.
Correct. Yeah, not too long ago. Yeah, it was
2 days ago.
Yeah, and so. The modular reactors that we should be looking at are salt molten core, thorium or uranium reactors that have a centrifuge rotation. What that means is that as you force rotate it faster and faster, the more energy and the hotter it will get. Okay. Now there's a core that actually has electricity that is propelling and making this centrifuge reactor go faster and faster. Okay. Which forces everything to the center. It makes the salt molten core react in a way that throws the heat up and creates the pressure and the steam and makes the power that we need. Okay. If in this case, compared to a water cooled reactor, if a salt molten core reactor started getting too hot and it was going faster and faster and you needed to slow it down, well, at some point it gets too hot, the cords will melt and it'll have to slow down on its own because it's force propelled, right? So as a forced rotation, you cut that power off and it automatically starts slowing down. It can't go faster anymore. So then it automatically cools itself. Okay. You put this down in a cement bunker you're using such a little amount of uranium or thorium based uranium. It's not plutonium. It's not
Weapons grade
radioactive material. This isn't stuff that would leak into the ground. You put a 10-foot cement wall all the way around this thing, it slows down. The other thing is you get the precious metals from it as it goes, as it's doing its centrifuge, as it's rotating. Anything that's not the salt molten core uranium gets pushed out to the end. You collect that as it goes. The uranium lasts for 30 plus years. I mean, you've heard of these nuclear submarines. that can stay underwater for 30 plus years if they wanted to. They don't. They can, but they can stay down.
Everybody's concerned about
years.
the spent rods, right? The spent rods, and that's water-cooled spent rods, right?
Which what do you mean by that?
The nuclear rods for most power plants.
If they're water cooled, they do these rods. That's not what we're talking about here, right?
And that's what everybody thinks.
That's what everybody thinks. They're thinking this this enriched uranium that somehow is radiating.
We have these nuclear spent rods, and once they're spent, then we got to do something with them.
Right.
We got this mountain in Nevada where they're burying them.
Right. The technology is very different now. We hear a lot of people that have suffered in southern Utah, central Utah, even out in Uinta Basin from the fallout from testing that had gone on in I think it was western Utah, but also in Nevada, and that fallout was, weapons grade uranium fallout that did affect people. That's not the same thing. We're not talking about the same thing here, right? Plenty of people work on this stuff all the time. You could go up to the national lab up in Idaho. People are working on it. Nobody's dying. Nobody's getting, radiation poisoning. But now, having said that, since people are still scared about it, we have plenty of land. We have plenty of ways to do it. It does cost a little bit more if we put it out. But yeah, don't put it in the center of a city. Don't put it.
Still saying energy solutions. No one's moving energy solutions anytime soon. Just
no. And they would love that. The Tooele County would love that power out there. It would create jobs out there.
Just plop it right next to them.
We'd have a surplus of energy. Bills, we pay considerably less.
Windar would like it too, because they'd be coming into work too.
Yeah. We could pay considerably less. We do pay considerably less than a lot of states on our power consumption per kilowatt hour. But this would significantly reduce that even more. It would allow us to produce so much energy that we could have data centers come in, and we could profit off of those data centers.
We want to profit off the data centers
and make a ton of money. Maybe that's our solution to build roads. Maybe that's our solution to get the money in here that we need so that we can actually build roads.
Instead of putting the data centers down in Eagle Mountain, they could put the data centers out there on I-80 somewhere.
Wherever they need to be. They don't need to be so close. Yeah. They need, a lot of good things that are happening with data centers, though. They are converting over to cooling systems that don't involve water, which is really good. We should not be accepting data centers that are utilizing too much water. That when the technology exists to not utilize water for that purpose, we need the water for our people. We need the water for many other things than putting it towards data centers that would utilize it in the wrong way. Now, if it's being recycled water or something that's, a different story, we can, work with that, but we shouldn't be looking at the cooling process. We live in a state where 9 months out of the year, the weather is cool enough that the air alone can cool with the right system. Air flowing systems in there can cool these.
And they'd only have to cool it during the summer months.
And they only need to cool it during the summer months, and they should be doing that with different coolants or the different technologies that exist out there that can cool these machines without water. It's just it's the same thing with why we shouldn't be doing water cooled nuclear reactors. So we have all these options. Okay, we have the ability to do this. We should be going full force on this. Let the private sector do their thing. But we need to be capitalizing on it as citizens and realize that if we become a power producing state, give you an idea. Okay. Do you know why Florida is able to get rid of their income tax and property tax? That's a crazy thing, right?
They are.
So we're sitting there going, okay, how is Florida doing this and why aren't we able to do this? Okay. Alaska's doing the same thing. Okay. Wyoming almost does.
Well, I understand why Alaska's. They got a lot of oil.
Wyoming's almost doing the same things. They do that. Okay. Now Wyoming kind of does that too with their energy. And Florida, do you know what Florida does? They tariff, just like everybody else does. So everything that we're talking about, what Alaska does, Wyoming does, what Florida does, it's all tariffs. And in Florida's situation, their tariffs are on anyone that utilizes any tourism facilities or services. Okay, those are all taxed.
That's what Nevada does.
those are all taxed to
Right,
a
Nevada doesn't have an income tax because it's you pay the luxury tax.
You pay the luxury taxes. You pay all these different fees, right? You go to hotels, you go to Disneyland, you go to cruises. There's all these kinds of taxes that you pay going to Florida. So what they did was they created tariffs in a way that other people coming into the state,
luxury tax.
other people out of state and out of country that are coming to Florida are paying for the livelihood of the government of Florida. What are we doing? Are we understanding that model, and what are we doing to get to that
I don't know
point?
if the ski industry would like that though.
Who knows, right?
Who knows?
But I'm not saying that we should be necessarily doing it with tourism. Maybe we have to do it in a way that that is combining a few different sectors, right? Maybe part of that is our tourism part. We have some of the most amazing stuff in Utah that people want to come see all the time, especially down south.
The Big Five,
right? We've got a lot of cool things that people want to come see. Well, we should be utilizing that, but what's part of the problem is what are they utilizing that tax on? Because we as a state are taxing that. Is it being utilized to make it to where Utahns don't have to pay, or is it making it to where they are putting it somewhere else and it's being utilized for something that is not as needed as much? That it could be going towards reducing property taxes, paying more towards our education fund. So my point is, I'm not saying that those funds are necessarily being misused. What I'm saying is that let's look at everything, prioritize everything, and realize that what the model of successful states are doing to reduce income and property tax, we should be doing the same thing in Utah.
It just surprises me we do not have a nuclear plant already.
Right.
We should have had one 10 years ago.
It's hard for them to. So the technology is still very new. Nobody wants to be the guinea pig, and at the same time, there are new technologies are coming out every month that could be better than the next. And you don't want to start off investing in something that could end up being 2 months later. Absolutely. Right. Yeah. And I'm not saying that it's that fast.
You still got to do it.
But you get what I'm saying. We don't want to, we got to do something, and we got to figure out what that technology is and who's making it the best, and then get there. But a lot of these projects are, no matter where you're building a nuclear plant, it's still always and will be an experiment. Every time you're putting that in, it is an experiment until it is functioning and working, right?
Does your district go out that far out to?
Goes out to Wendover.
It goes clear out to Wendover.
Doesn't include Wendover. Goes out to the border though.
It goes right out. Well, there's the Utah Wendover and there's Nevada Wendover. So
No, Sandals district Senator Sanders district consists of the Wendover part, but so it has just a little beep, goes right around Wendover, but it covers the vast rest of that border. Yeah.
So Dugway is in your area. So you got Dugway and all the Dugway proving ground. So I mean that
can all be there.
It's where a nuclear power plant should be.
The reason why you don't want it too far, though, this is the reason why you don't want the nuclear plants too far away. Transmission lines cost a lot of money. We're talking about anywhere from $1 million to $2 million, and it could be even more than that by now.
It's a straight shot.
Per mile.
Over mountains.
But you have to do that per mile. Yeah. So think about how many miles that is. That could be a $80 million project. That could be, whatever that is. Is that worth it? Could be. Let's financially plan it out and see if that works and then make it happen. But if it doesn't, the closer you are, the more cost effective it's going to be.
Well, no one's going to want it next to their houses. I mean, you're not going to be able to stick it out in their Eagle Mountain. No one's going to approve that. Skull Valley's probably, you might be able to get it in Skull Valley because Skull Valley is right next to Dugway. But
we got to look at places. We have planned to do it. We got to figure it out. And we want to benefit off of that power. It doesn't produce any emissions. It doesn't do, it is very clean energy. This is the kind of energy that we want to be doing. And if we can attract with the amount of power that we can produce we're talking, 1 to 2 cents a kilowatt that these power plants should be producing.
Maybe all our electrical bills can start going down.
Our electrical bills should go down from that, as well as that's what California should be doing, is putting up all these nuclear plants and desalinating the water.
Well, you should have all these companies that are wanting to put these data centers here kind of half funding that.
Yeah.
Say, okay, we're going to give you guys an incentive to bring your data centers here, but your money is going to go and help us build this nuclear power plant. And then we'll feed your data centers. We'll feed the Wasatch Front.
So our whole goal at the end of the day, and we've talked about a lot of things, but the goal at the end of the day would be to figure out what Utah can export and or utilize to reduce property tax and income tax in the state of Utah.
Yeah.
We should be on pace with every other conservative state and other states that are doing it. If we're not doing that, that's our goal. That's the goalpost. So are we going there? Are we headed in that direction? And what's the plan to head in that direction? Have we set the plan? Have we understood, how we can reach that goal? Other states are reaching that goal. We should be able to do it too. What can we export? What can we be the leader in that everybody needs from us that we can trade? Maybe power is something that we can be trading to other states for water, right? Whatever that is, we need to figure that out, have that plan, set it off in the distance and start creating a plan to head towards it.
The big coal power state.
We used to be the biggest.
And that's dying.
Yeah. Yeah, it's dying.
That's dying. So I don't know where we're getting our power from now if coal's dying.
Well, no, the coal, it's not really that the coal's dying. It's that that all that power, most of it, and that was being done, in the more central and southern part of the state. Yeah. Price, a huge plant there, Delta, where they were sending all that power to California. Okay. So when they are stopping their stuff, it's not as much that we were never getting that power in the first place. Right. Yeah. So when they bring that stuff up again, what they're trying to bring it up for is so that data centers can go out in Delta.
And California's fine with that. We can have the coal plants and they can take the power, but then they can go and protest the coal plants because it's not in their state.
Right. Right. That's the whole reason that they're doing it. It's the same concept with the electric vehicle. Same reason they're using the power that comes from coal to charge their electric vehicle.
Yeah, the green.
I'm not opposed to electric vehicles. It's just that is the reality of the situation. You can't hide a dirty process with the end result of how you utilize it. It's just it's created one way, and that's the power that we have, and we should be utilizing it.
Yeah. Next big topic is there is a bill going across the Senate and the House right now. Trevor Lee's got a big portion of it. I think there's a smaller one coming across the Senate about immigration. And obviously, big part of our housing problem is there's a lot of illegal immigrants consuming
resource,
that low-income market.
Yeah.
Where our kids that are trying to move out of our houses can't afford houses because there's no place to go. So we need to support ICE as much as possible. And so the bill is trying to eliminate all incentives to illegal immigrants. And we get arguments all the time. Well, illegals aren't getting food stamps. They're not getting Medicaid. Yes, they are. They've always have been. And Trevor Lee's trying to put out a bill that would eliminate WIC, food stamps, Medicaid. And I know it's going to get decimated in the House. It's probably going to get more decimated in the Senate. So they're probably going to maybe pass a fraction of it if it goes through. So it's going to end up coming on probably coming up on the next legislative session, which you should be a part of if you get voted into office. How could you help that out?
What's funny to me is that we're in a situation where I feel the left has, every time I would argue that illegal immigrants are utilizing some of our resources that are meant for citizens of the U.S., and it's costing us more money, and it's putting us further into debt. I hear so often that from the left that's not happening. Well, if it's not happening, then this bill shouldn't be a problem.
Exactly.
But the problem is that it is happening. We know it's happening, and
they know it's happening too because they want their voters.
Yeah.
They want to give them driver's licenses. They have given them driver's licenses, and all you need is a driver's license to vote.
Right.
So part of Trevor Lee bills too is to eliminate that loophole and get rid of
eliminating the incentives that
driver's license. No more driver's licenses to illegals.
Right.
And that's
unfortunately it just puts us more and more into debt, and as a state, even though we might not see the full effect of it, but that money that we're talking about could be money that's going to roads.
You can't believe the fight he's having amongst conservative House people, conservative senators, how much of a fight it is to pull a driver's license from an illegal.
I know.
They shouldn't be here. Why do they have a driver's license?
Right. And it makes it really tough to understand why that's even a problem. It shouldn't have been there even in the first place. And all we're doing in this case is pretty much cleaning that up, making sure that it's not an incentive anymore.
And it's not only that, but then they're taking a driver's license and a utility bill, which is all they need, and they go down to the elections office and they register to vote.
That's a possibility.
Well, it's not just a possibility. They're doing it. My wife's Latin. I know all. That's what they're doing because they do. There is no state requirement to prove citizenship.
Right.
All you need to register to vote is a proof of address, which is a utility bill, and your driver's license, and you're registered, and you're voting.
Yep. And we are one of, I think there's a total of, I want to say it's 19 states that allow that to happen. The rest, which is why the SAVE Act is so important, to just get it in there. If it's not affecting anybody and it's not a problem, then it shouldn't be a problem to do this. But again, that should be a basic fundamental principle that you've got to prove who you are to vote. It's just that simple.
Why is that so complicated? In a conservative state, we're fighting that. And people are denying it. Well, we're verifying it. They're just taking a driver's license, utility bill, and they're registering.
Right.
But we have a verification process. I'm like, what is it? Well, there's a checkbox on that says that I certify that I'm a U.S. citizen. Oh, there's a checkbox. Okay, and who's checking that checkbox?
Right.
And they're using that as a legitimate argument, and it pisses you off.
It's tough because, I mean, we're supposed to have transparency. We're supposed to trust the process. And everybody, there's arguments out there that it's not significant enough to make a difference. It's like, well, it shouldn't be happening. It just shouldn't be happening.
But it is significant enough because in our state alone, they're estimating close to 100,000 illegals, if not 120,000 illegals in our state.
That is a big stat, yeah.
That could blow any election. That's how much margins are being won by right now. We discussed this like 2 or 3 podcasts ago that in the state of California, the study came out that there was 450,000 people that were called up for jury duty that were denied being able to get on the jury because they were illegal.
That's crazy.
450,000 for jury duty. And where do you get jury duty people? It's from the voter rolls. Registered voters, they go to the registered voter list and they pull you up for jury duty. And then you have to think of what percentage of the population actually gets pulled up for jury duty. And of that small percentage of the population does get pulled up, if you have 450,000 of them showing up illegal, registered to vote, how many more are actually registered to vote that aren't being called up? And we're going to have the same problem here in the state of Utah. If
it's happening in one place, it's definitely happening in another.
Especially when all you have to do to register to vote is a driver's license and a utility bill.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And no one's fixing it.
I have no problem with driver's license, but I'm shocked that it's even controversial. It seems like it's a no-brainer. Taxpayer money should be going to citizens and for the use of citizens. It's that simple. I don't know how we could get it to understand it any other way.
I don't know either. We had it's the same thing with SB 54 because we had a conversation with Musselman, and I like Musselman. He's got a lot of great bills. He's conservative, but we have a lot of senators in the Utah Senate that are conservative in 80% of the areas, and then you start discussing SB 54, and they go off the rails. It's like, no, we have to grant people the way to get on the ballot using signatures or others. And then you have this crazy argument, well, you're going to have to prove to me that SB 54, other than money, you're going to have to prove that SB 54 is bad. You can't use money. I'm like, what do you mean I can't use money? That's the whole point. We need to get rid of SB 54 is because
the main part of the argument.
Money rules. And he's like, well, you're never going to win using the money argument. Well, we have to win using the money argument. And he's like, well, how does money affect it? I'm like, what do you mean how?
If it didn't affect it, then it wouldn't be in place right now.
Yeah, exactly. If you got a delegate who is standing in front of somebody like yourself and just talking to you, everything comes out. Your personality comes out. What your beliefs come out. Everything comes out. You can't hide that after months and months of just talking to delegates at the library or the school or the city building where we have these meet and greets. Everything comes out when you're having face-to-face conversations with the delegate. Delegates don't pay attention to TV ads or radio spots. And when you go into these libraries, all you have is a folding table, some stickers, some buttons, and you have an individual standing there.
You can't spend a lot of money on a caucus.
You can't.
There's a certain point of a diminishing return that you'd be wasting money at a certain point.
Delegates
that is not
care.
the case with a primary.
Yeah.
And it's different. And the thing is, and I'm not opposed to a primary. That's not what I'm opposed to. Not allowing candidates to be vetted before they get on the ballot for a Republican party. The party should be able to choose how it nominates its candidates. It's
not the legislature's deciding.
It's not the legislature. It's not the state. It's not Democrats. It's not anybody. Each organization gets to choose how they get on the ballot. Okay. Now we have a threshold that right now is set at 60%. If we look back in the history of we have since the Republican Party was implemented in 1890 or 1891, and the state became part of the Union in 1896. We've used the caucus system. The Republicans have used the caucus system since then. Okay, when that started, the threshold was 80%. Okay, it went down to 70%, went back up to 80%, went down to 70%, went down to 60, went up to 70, went down to 60 again. Right now we're at 60. Okay. The intent for the original intent, the way that our nominating process was originally created, not saying that it can't change, but it was originally created to vet out bad candidates and leave the top two best candidates for the party nomination. And if somebody couldn't get at the time, in the very beginning, at least 20%, just 20%, clearly they shouldn't deserve to be on the primary ballot. It filtered out that bad of a candidate, right? That's what it was for, is to filter out the worst candidates that didn't have a chance in the first place, to save everybody money and time and effort in a process for somebody that was a very good candidate, get over 80%. Well, that still applies with the 70%. When it went down to 70%, still applies. They made it, each time that percentage comes down, it gives a little bit more control to the delegates of who gets chosen. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but again, that's the party's decision. That's the people in the party that get to decide that.
The party is a private entity.
Right.
It's not run by the government. It's a private entity. And for some reason,
they
lost that here.
There's this, I've looked into it a lot. There's a couple situations or cases where the federal government had ruled on political parties on the national level on how effective they were. They wanted to control those political parties and put language in there that they are quasi private public organizations. Even though they're a private organization, they still have some input because of these reasons. And they list out a few reasons, one of them being money spent on primary elections. So they use that wiggle room to try to control it 100%, which is not okay either. So now we get into, now it's down to 60%. It could easily be put back up at 70% if that organization deemed it needing to be that, if they felt like it needed to be. But the problem is that you have such a small population within the Republican Party that did want that, but they couldn't control the rest of the Republican Party, so they had to go outside the Republican Party to the state and get it done. Okay. Now, we've also heard and talked about how that SB 54 was created to save the caucus system. There is a little bit of truth to that, but there is most of that I would disagree with, and that we don't have any true proven proof on that. They'll claim poll numbers and certain things that's saying that they would have gotten the votes. I don't know if that's necessarily accurate. We didn't see it. And that was at a time where not many people knew about the issue and what was going on. Okay. A lot more people, what I have found and what I love to look at data. I'm big on data. And what I've seen is that the new delegates to the Republican Party that become delegates, they are 70% of the time, at least in this last one, were new delegates. So 70% of these past state delegates were new delegates from the previous year. And in the county, it's a little bit different, and I'm sure throughout counties it's a little bit different, but it's relatively the same. It's within that 55 to 70% are brand new. Okay. But even though every single year they're first-time delegates, they all love the caucus system, and they would rather not, by the end of it, have the primary system. And a lot of people could say that was, they're being told by this hyper vigilant group that's so far right and what. It's like, well, no, that doesn't happen with 70% consistently every single year. That is 65, 50% new delegates. That doesn't happen every year.
Too many delegates out there, and there's
too many.
There's too many.
They all get convinced. That's not a thing.
No.
They all get convinced every time.
There's a lot of purple delegates.
Yes.
There's a lot of really, really staunch conservative delegates, but there's areas of the Salt Lake Valley they're purple. They're registered Republican, but they're obviously purple. So it comes out fair in the end, but it's still the delegates making the decision. And the people can go to those delegates and say, I want to talk to this legislator. I want to talk to that legislator. And the delegates can be the persons getting a hold of them. Because to order to hold a legislator accountable, they've got to answer to the people, which means somebody in the people have got to speak with them and say, these are the concerns of my district, of my area. Instead of having a million people trying to light up their phones, they can call their delegate and say, I need you to ask this senator, this congressman, what is he thinking? And since the senator or that congressman knows the delegate, answers to that delegate,
has spoken with them face-to-face, has a relationship with them.
Many times, they pick up the phone. Yes, what do you need?
They have more influence than just the average person that calls up that they've never heard of before.
Exactly. There's the power.
The other thing is
it gives the people more power, because people are thinking, well, the delegates take power from the people. No, it gives you more power, because now you've got somebody that representative has to answer to. Because right now, with the how many people we have population-wise, it takes 10,000, 100,000 of us to influence a senator or congressman, because you can ignore a couple individuals that won't affect your election. You can't ignore 10,000, 20,000 people.
Right.
That affects your election, right? And that's delegates give that 10,000, that 20,000, that type of authority. Because if you lose a delegate, because they're finite, there's only a certain number of them.
Yeah, the money thing is important though, and we can choose to dismiss it all we want, but it still is the largest factor of what we're talking about here. On, you can ignore delegates and have $150,000 spent on a Senate campaign and still win. You can do that.
You can collect signatures.
You can do that. You can't win an election without that 150 grand or with that 150 grand if you were convention only and you ignored your delegates. You can't do that.
You can't do it.
And so there's some clearly, I mean, it's obvious that there is an accountability situation that they're trying to subvert, they're trying to get around. That's clear. We don't want that. What we would like is that people, and maybe the threshold needs to be at 66% or 70%, as some people have said, because if you can't make it onto the primary ballot in a caucus, in a caucus convention, you that's clearly a sign that you're ignoring a certain population of your constituents that are more aware of what's going on. Now, money obviously does affect elections. The statistics, you would be completely ignoring the data if you said that money doesn't matter. That would be ignoring the data completely. People wouldn't raise money if it didn't matter. People wouldn't raise millions of dollars for U.S. Congress and Senate campaigns and win, the majority of the time, almost every single time, the person that spent the most money wins the race. It's just what it is. There's a lot of reasons for that, and we can go into the psychology of it. And it's amazing. And how many times do we find out voters didn't know about the person that they ended up voting for it, but they just got the mailer, or they saw the ad on TV, or whatever that was. That person was able to reach more voters and say a message, but not all of the message. Where with the caucus convention system, you can actually talk to every single delegate that's voting for you
In person.
face to face. So I would always, at the end of the day, I would encourage face-to-face interaction. I love the accountability that the caucus convention system gives. I think that's super important. I would hate to see large amounts of money spent in a campaign if it's not needed, because clearly that influences in a different way, and you're more held accountable to those people that gave you money versus the people that are actually voting for you. You can receive money from anybody. They don't have to live in your district. The votes, though, can only come from your district. Yeah. And so that is just a little different that way. So having said all of that, I mean, obviously SB 54 is in law right now. It would be nice to get to more of a situation where we've held where we can hold elected officials accountable through the caucus convention system. They would still go to a primary if they got the 40% that's required, which is not a difficult margin to get if you are decently doing your job. But then at the same time, I do want to put this on, and I have for the past 3-4 years have worked on the steering committee of the Utah County Republican Party. I have worked tirelessly. I've attended almost every single meeting possible on so many facets. I've worked on I'm currently an SEC member. I love getting involved in local party politics and party governance to make the party better. I want to make the party better. It is important to me that the party stays fruitful and is doing what it's supposed to do. We got to SB 54 a lot because we got so lax in what we were doing as a party, as a political party. We just thought that we would give more and more control to the delegate process without working on the process of getting more Republicans involved in the process in general, right? We got lazy in that aspect because we are a heavily Republican state. We didn't feel like we had to. That led us eventually to where enough people in the party were upset with it. Enough people in the outside the party saw an opportunity. So all in all together, we saw the SB 54 happen.
And then it got corrupted.
And then it got super corrupted, and we've seen it get worse and worse and worse as it goes. So what I would love to see is the party as well, and why I joined this. The reason that I got into and have been volunteering so many countless hours to help the party is because I want to fix that broken system that I believe is broken. And the way that I believe that it's broken is that anytime you run a company, anytime you run any type of organization, you have to have a foundation in place. You have to have roles and responsibilities. You have to have boundaries. You have to have, right now, for any organization, it's tough to take on a volunteer and put them to work. What role did you give them? What's their scope? How do you do things, right? There's a lot that we can make better in the party, okay? It's all volunteer people. They're doing their best. Everybody's trying. And so I went in also to try to do my best and put in things like power of the precinct, making sure that precincts are empowered to do what they're supposed to be that grassroots that it's supposed to be, so that you are 3 lines of leadership away from party leadership and have a voice. And the same way down. So if the county party has something to say down that they want to get out to all Republicans, they can tell 2 different levels, and it gets to every single person in the precinct. That's the ideal system, right? That's the ideal structure and organization. We just haven't been utilizing it the right way. Well, we believe, and at least down in Utah County, that we have been working really hard to enact that and turn that system on, where we have House districts, we have the county, we have the House districts, and then we have precincts within those House districts. We have the leadership for every single one of those levels, right? We need to be using that. And we haven't been using that for a long time. And if we do utilize that, to be very honest, SB 54 doesn't even actually matter. It really doesn't matter. If we're actually using our party the way that it was meant to be in the first place, SB 54 actually would never need to be repealed, because everybody would want to run a convention because they realize that the party can do wonders and nominate effectively the nominees that it wants to choose for its party, right? Now, I'd still like to see SB 54 go away just as a.
Well, I don't want people bypassing the party.
I don't want that happening at all. And if the party can get there to where they can make it to where nobody wants to run signature gathering anyway, it costs a lot of money. They don't want to do that path anyway. I still would want to repeal SB 54 just as a meaningful victory of, hey, we got the party functioning the way that it was, and our reward is that SB 54 doesn't need to be there anymore.
There just needs to be a lot of education, because I ask a lot of people about the caucus system.
Yeah.
And they have no idea what it is or how it works. It's a big problem. It's not taught in our schools, the high schools.
Right.
High schools should have a civics class teaching this is what a constitutional republic is, not a democracy. This is what a caucus system is, so that people come out. You don't need a party line. That you just need to explain, this is what it is. This is how it works.
We're one of the luckiest states to have it. There's not that many left, and they've all gone away. There were so many more. Not one primary state has ever gone to a caucus system. All caucus systems that have switched have gone to a primary. Why is that? Well, I'll tell you, it's the money.
Money.
But you can't use money in a caucus system, but you can use
that's the argument.
money in a primary.
Like I said, I was talking to Musselman, I've talked to a few other senators, and he says, well, there's no difference between the primary system and caucus. You can still use money. I'm like, no, you can't.
You can't.
You can't.
It evens the playing field.
It evens it. So just for everybody else in the audience to have an example. So if I have a candidate that raises $1 million, and he's running against another candidate that could only raise $100,000. So obviously the candidate with $1 million has got a huge advantage.
Huge.
The guy can only raise $100,000.
Right.
Right. But when you go to the caucus system, they both still have the same folding table, the same little.
There's only so many voters they can reach. There's
the same buttons, the same balloons that they put on the side of the thing, right? And they can run the TV and radio commercials and try to influence the voter, and the voters can then turn to their delegate and say, I like what I'm hearing on this commercial, commercial, or this radio spot, right? And then the delegate can go tell them, well, I spoke to them in person, and they're not what they're saying in the commercial. I'm just telling you that that's not what they believe in. I can read them in his eyes and tell him it's not that. And so then that person who's being influenced by the commercial can hear firsthand from their delegate that what the truth is. Because me, the delegate, that congressman or that senator came and sat in my living room and visited me in person as a delegate.
I asked him the tough questions.
And I asked him the tough questions. And I saw his personality. I saw what he believed in.
I saw if he hesitated or not. I saw how passionate he was about things.
Yeah.
I saw the whole thing. I saw, and what mattered to me.
But I did it like 3 or 4 times, because he went to my house, and then I went and saw him at this meet and greet, and then I went and saw him again at this meet and greet just to verify it. I listened to him as he was.
I have his phone number because they want to give it out, because they want you to call him. I understand the process.
I listened to him as other delegates asked him questions to see if he answered the same way. Because some delegate may get a different answer than I would get if he thinks he's a little less conservative, more conservative than I am, and see if he changed his opinion. We talk as delegates to see if he.
And no postcard or TV ad will ever give you that amount of perspective into who a candidate
we talk as delegates. What did he tell you when he visited you versus what did he tell me when he visited me?
Right.
Did his story change? Right? You can't get that when all you're seeing is some guy at a rally standing up there and just rehearsing a speech that some speechwriter wrote.
Right.
Right? It's just, it takes money out of it. So everybody that tells me, well, it's the same. You can't use the money argument. That just pisses me off, because no, it's not true. If I have a guy that has $1 million, another guy that has $100,000, the guy with $100,000 has an equal opportunity of winning, because all he has to do is the same thing. Go to the same libraries, go to the same schools, put out his folding table, put some buttons, some T-shirts, some balloons out, and just talk to people.
One of the things I learned growing up as a kid, and particularly in Scouts, was to be prepared. And particularly when it comes to my feet. You do not want to be out in a situation where your feet are incredibly uncomfortable and makes you absolutely miserable, makes the rest of the day absolutely miserable. So you have to go out there in the right equipment, whether that's hiking in the mountains, whether that's fishing on the stream, it's working out in your garden or out in the yard, or it's going out on the town or to the nearest rodeo in a nice pair of boots. You have to go out prepared so you look good, feel good, and most importantly, it is comfortable. Because again, there's nothing like being miserable walking around all day long. We want to introduce you to 3 different companies that are supporting this channel. We have Durango Boots, which provides the best Western wear and boots that money can buy. So you'll have the look, the feel that you want. There's also Rocky Boots for that great mountain wear, that hiking wear, and just getting out into nature and being prepared for what you're confronting. And then there's Mucky Boots or Muck Boots, which will provide the perfect waterproofing that you need for fishing, hunting, and again, getting out in the yard and working in the mud. These are great companies that supply a great pair of boots for you for any need, for any occasion. So again, go to the link in our description or click on the QR code that's coming up on your screen for any of these great sites, whether it's Western wear, whether it's the outdoor wear and getting up into the hills and the mountains, or whether it's muck wear that you need to be able to work around the garden or go fishing or hunting and not walk around with wet feet. These are great products at great prices that will keep you perfectly comfortable all day at the same time that you're looking good. So trust these products, whether it's Durango, whether it's Muck Boots, or whether it's Rocky Mountain Boots or Rocky Boots, and go to those sites using the link in our description or QR code that's popping up on your screen. Again, the link in the description or QR code that's popping up on your screen, and support our channel.
Yeah, you can only reach so many voters in the caucus system because there's a limited number. And you can. So in my race, and for instance, there's going to be somewhere between 120 and 130 delegates, okay? I can talk to 130 people.
Literally visit every single home.
I can visit every one of their homes. I can call each one of them on the phone and meet with them and teach them about what I believe and have them ask questions to me. I know that I can't do that in a primary. I'm going to try when
there's 150,000 people.
And I am going to try to reach out every single one of them, but the best way to reach those people is money. And sometimes you have a lot, sometimes you don't. But money is what helps you reach out those people. But in a caucus system, you don't need money to reach 130 people.
Why doesn't our Senate understand that? Because I've literally talked to senators that don't believe that concept. They said, no, it doesn't matter. You can use money either way.
What's tough is too, though, this system, a primary system specifically, and I'm not saying I do like the caucus convention system that also has the primary when necessary, part of it. But to circumvent that process and just go to a primary, so a primary is guaranteed every single time, what you're doing there, where money, so it's in a way insurance, okay? A senator, while he's in office, has a lot of power. They are going out and meeting a lot of different people that they're talking to, and they have more access to donors because they're meeting with some very wealthy individuals that have a lot of influence, or a lot of companies that want to change certain laws and whatnot. And they are able to do fundraising events because they're very important people. Okay. So they can raise money the entire time while they're in office, so that when they go to run against somebody, that person,
blow them out of the water.
That person has to have a lot of money. Otherwise, they're not going to win.
You got to take that out of it. You got to take the money out
They're
of it.
going to win every single time. So what is the fairest system possible? Well, if you equal the playing field, it makes it to where the richest man in the city doesn't have to run every time. It makes it to where your neighbor can, to where you can, where any person can actually run for office and see who the delegates,
I could have $100 in my pocket and still run and still put the same tablecloth out, the same buttons, and talk to the same people that the guy with the $1 million has.
And the delegates should be able to decide and filter out the 2 best candidates. It just should be that way.
Even if you want to go caucus with a small primary on it, you could tell the convention, okay, we want you to pick the 2 best candidates, not just the one.
Yep.
And we'll stick the 2 on the ballot and let the public decide between the 2.
Yep.
At least that's a mix, right?
Yep.
But it still comes out of the caucus system.
Yes.
Whereas what we had right now is, let's take our governorship.
Yeah.
Because we had Lyman, we had Jorgensen, we had Cox.
Yep.
Right? Coming out of convention, Lyman was number 1, Jorgensen was number 2. Cox wasn't even anywhere. He would not have made it out of caucus, bar none. Yeah? So if we had a forced primary, the people would have voted between Lyman and Jorgensen, not between Lyman and Cox.
Right.
But because of the signature process,
Well, so actually, I think if I'm
Cox
remembering,
put himself on the ballot.
yeah, but if I'm remembering right, though, Carson Jorgensen, a good friend of mine, he did get knocked out first. It ended up being
But he had more than Cox did. A lot more.
delegates.
Yeah.
I didn't remember that. I thought I thought it was 70-30.
No.
Spencer Cox and Phil Lyman on the last ballot.
No.
No?
It wasn't
Interesting.
even close.
I missed that then.
Yeah, I was a delegate. I was there in the room, and my co-host is also a delegate. We were up there when Cox started yelling at us. It doesn't matter. I don't care about you guys. I'm going to still win. Why? Because I can bypass the ballot. Whatever you guys say doesn't matter. I'm just going to get my $50 million that I have
But it would have been
donors.
it would have been a totally different race if you're held accountable. This is
Because
the
he
one thing.
wasn't held accountable by delegates.
This is the one thing that I wish, and I actually told him this. I told him I really wish that he had gone to the events and talked to
He didn't go to
people.
single
He didn't go to a single event
Not
that,
one.
to meet with the people that are the most knowledgeable voters, the ones that are asking all the questions that are up to date on the issues. He didn't want to be held accountable to any of them. Didn't show up to any single event to talk to any single one. I would have loved to talk to him about stuff. Ask him why he did stuff.
He went to like the Davis County Convention, but he went to the big convention. He didn't go to any of the meet and greets. None of them.
Yeah, none of the meet the candidate events that all of the different counties held. And Utah County has some big ones. So I'm in Utah County, so I was surprised he didn't go to some of those, and I really wish he would have. But it's a tough situation when you have a system of representative government that you're supposed to be held accountable by the people, and we can't go through that problem. We let money distort that. We let money escape that accountability.
And a lot of delegates are frustrated enough they don't even care to run anymore. Why? Because whoever wants to bypass and can give us the bird and get on the ballot anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is what Cox did. He just, I don't care what you guys, I'm going to get on the ballot anyway.
Right.
Now there's a lawsuit in place because they don't even think he got the signatures to get on the ballot. So that's, just so everybody knows, we're going to have somebody on the podcast here in a couple of weeks that's going through that court battle, going to give us an update on it. But that's the issue with SB 54 is you got a certain group of people that think that money doesn't matter either way you go, whether it's caucus or signatures, that it's both even and fair, and it's not.
Yeah.
And they wholeheartedly believe that it should just be up to the general public that whether you go through signatures or go to the caucus system or not. But it's not. Once you have signatures in place, the convention is null and void. It does not even matter.
And I don't even mind. I want to take the opportunity right now too, though. Like, this is actually the very first podcast that I've done, this very first campaign that I've ever done. But I can say with a surety, no matter how long I'm in politics in Utah, dealing with the caucus system, I will never gather signatures. I just don't believe in that process. If I did something wrong to where I can't garner the 40% to get on the primary ballot, I do not deserve to be in office. And it's just that simple. And it's not about my ego. It's not, I might feel like I'm the best candidate, but the people didn't feel like I was the best candidate. So guess what? That's how the voting system goes, right? So I can commit to never ever gathering signatures just because that's my belief system. I really do believe in representative government, and that the party does have a choice in how they choose their nominees, that they get to decide that. And that I do not want money to corrupt our political state like it has in so many other primary states. I really want to avoid that as long as possible in Utah.
You got to keep Utah red.
We do.
You got to keep Utah. That's a really, really hard subject because there's a lot of purple people in Utah.
Yeah.
Particularly in Salt Lake County. So you got a very, very hard mix because you'll come from Eagle Mountain,
Yeah.
Lehigh area, which It's pretty red.
Mountain is very conservative.
Red.
It's a very conservative area.
Red. And then you're going to go up towards West Valley, Kearns, Magna, because you got pieces of those, right?
Yeah, they're more 50-50.
They're more 50-50. So you've got to be able to make both constituencies happy.
Yes, that's right.
How do you do that?
Those are, and you did name the two extremes in the district. But one of the things that I've learned, I've been working with and talked to the mayor and city council of Magna. And one of the things that's most important to them happens to be also something that I think everybody can agree on, is that we want the control of local authorities to remain local. And one of these cases, it's like the zoning power. That's something that I am heavily in favor of, is keeping that power local as possible and within the city governments. And that's where I'm going to be able to help them out the most. Another thing with Magna and Kearns, I have been attending meetings out there for a long time now, trying to meet everybody and get to know people for over a year now. But the reason that I'm doing that, and the reason why I'm going to so many events out there that they're holding, is because I want to show them that I'll show up for them. They don't have anybody in the fight that's representing them right now, and I want to make sure that they
don't want to think that you're just a Utah County boy
that I can't drive up and meet them, right? That I can't get there, and I'm proving to them that I can get there, that I am driving the distance every single time to make sure that I can affirm to them that I will represent them. I will be there for things. I will get elected and I will attend their meetings. I will call them up. I will listen to what their biggest problems are, and I will make sure. So I feel like 90% of anything you do is showing up.
And then you got to do the same thing with Twilla.
And then I got to drive a whole nother hour to get to them, right? They have a great little community out there. They are such a strong, powerful people, and a whole county out there. And I've been to a couple events out there. Just a very humble people. And luckily, they do have a lot more in common with what Eagle Mountain is facing, that it's going to be a lot easier to make sure everything for them is covered, right? But it's one of those things that I've got a lot of work to. I'm in a district that was drawn in a way that makes it really hard to represent, to drive there, to be present. But that's who I am. I'm showing up that I'm
much more Twilla than I am Eagle Mountain, because Eagle Mountain is that rural, walk your dog, go to the park type of community, whereas Twilla is more country, rodeo,
blue collar, and work hard and get out there, get dirty, and have fun.
Yeah, I'm much more Twilla than Eagle Mountain, because I like the rodeos, I like the country.
I spend a lot of time in Twilla County because of my falconry. I actually use a lot of the BLM lands for my hobby, and so I'm out there quite a bit, driving that road all the way out to Twilla, and so I've gotten to know a lot of people out there too. There's a lot of good falconers out in Twilla County.
Oh, really?
A lot of good falconers out in Twilla County. Some of the best in the world, and so I've actually been to Twilla quite a bit because of just that alone. And again,
we might have to do an episode where we go remote and go and
that would be fun. That would be a lot of fun.
Use the birds. I would enjoy seeing the birds work.
Yeah, we do what's called a Sky Trials in January, so we just missed it. But in January every year, we do what's called the Utah Sky Trials. It's the first, so they do Sky Trials all around the world now. And it's an event.
What is that?
It's an event that falconers get together, and they compete with their birds on a flight. And the flight is basically where you fly your bird, where it circles you above your head till it gets to its highest pitch, whatever it's willing to fly. The higher, the better flight. Then when the bird is as high as it's going to fly that day, you release some pigeons, and then the bird dives, does its falcon dive, and just comes and tries to attack the bird, sometimes hitting the bird. And if the bird does hit it, it gets more points. If it misses, but it clips some wings or gets some feathers and makes a double pass, you get more points. And so you score. There's judges out there, and they score the points, and whoever has the best flight.
You don't
of the day.
haven't had any animal rights activists out there declaring animal cruelty to the pigeon yet, have you?
I mean, they'd have to declare all birds of prey they're attacking animals, right? These pigeons though are if you're going lateral, pigeons are faster than falcons. That's kind of crazy, which I didn't know that. But certain racing pigeons are faster.
So how do you train the bird to circle you and go up that high?
It's all about food, but they naturally want to do that, and so if you get a bird to go up, you're starting to train it. So I'll train it with a lure, right? I have this little leather pad that I have on a string that I have some food on it, and I'll swing it around. I'll let the bird start flying around, and then the bird will come around and try to swing it, and I'll pull it away, right? And it'll make passes, and I get the bird to where it's going on a lot of passes. Eventually, naturally, these birds want to fly, right? So once I've got this bird trained to a lure, I let the bird start to fly. Sometimes it'll only go up 100 feet. Eventually, give it, a week or two, the bird will start to fly, start to circle up high. And once it gets up to like 200, 300 feet, you throw a pigeon. And the bird goes, oh my gosh, I was flying free, and then this guy throws some food out there. I'm going for the food, right? So boom, bird goes for the food. Now the bird might not get up, put the lure out, I give it its reward, comes back. Well, next time I go to do that, I let the bird fly up. It goes up a little bit higher. He's like, wondering, and then sees me throw a pigeon. He's like, oh my gosh, there it is again. So if I do this every day, when I do this, he throws.
So it's just repetition.
And it's repetition. And it's taught me so many different lessons. Eventually the bird will fly very, very high. Some people use drones to train, all kinds of different methods, but
So how high are your birds going?
they'll go up to 4,000 feet.
4,000 feet?
Even higher than that. I mean, they will go high.
Do you have imagery of them going up that high? You can't even see them that high.
We use telemetry. So there is a little tracker that I put on the bird, and thankfully we have this because of some technology by Marshall Radio that is actually in Utah that they built. They're one of the only, they built the best equipment ever so that we can track our birds up to 30 miles away.
Really?
On repeater of transmitting like every second, every 5 minutes, whatever we needed to preserve the battery. But I can literally watch the whole flight of a bird on an app on my phone and show exactly where the bird's at.
Wow, that is awesome.
It's crazy. And that's only been available since like early 2000s, right? It hasn't been available forever.
So the big question is do you have like a speedometer or something like that down there clocking them?
On the app.
So the app can do that too.
The app can tell the speed. And we've seen birds consistently go above 180 miles an hour when they're diving.
It's got to be a great app to be able to
It is.
gauge speed.
That's what I'm saying.
How accurate do you think that app is?
It's really accurate. I mean, so I believe, I'm not exactly positive, but the Marshall telemetry radio, they also do defense contracting stuff with missiles and everything too, I think. So it's pretty accurate.
180 miles an hour.
The guy just happens to be a falconer as well. And so he took that technology and put it on this telemetry to track his bird. So
And then he started selling them.
then he started selling it, and they use it all over the world. I mean, it is the best equipment, the best radio telemetry equipment in the world. So you got everybody using it, and he's the only one that builds it.
And he's here in Utah.
He's here in Utah.
How convenient is that?
How convenient. But we actually do have, that's one of the things I was going to say, the Sky Trials event started in 1975 by a guy named Gerald Richards, who went out to Eagle Mountain all the time and flew. The first Sky Trials was in 1975. And then since then, there's one in Italy, there's one in Mexico, there's one in Japan, there's a ton of them. And
Why Eagle Mountain?
we have the best falconers in the world.
Really?
We have the best falconers in the world. And I could say that. I know all of them. They are awesome. They know their stuff. And I'm sure there's a couple, in a couple other states that would disagree with me. But for the most part, if you went out, people from all over the world come and watch the Utah Sky Trials, and it's been.
How many of them do you have out there?
So we end up getting on a good year, we'll get about 300 people out there.
And how many falconers are out there?
Probably 150.
150 falconers.
Yeah, and that come out to Utah.
That's more than a small group.
We've got about 350 that are registered here in Utah. There's over 1,000 in Texas and California and other places, but We have Utah happens to be Utah is one of the best places to do falconry in the world. Like it really, I would say Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota also has some good spots. But one of the reasons that Utah is so amazing is because we have a variety of birds that we can trap and we can work with compared to other states. But we also have all of the waterfowl and the hunting grounds and the ability to
Have you ever slow-mo cammed it? One of your birds?
I haven't personally, but there are plenty of visuals of that people that some of our friends have done.
Slow. That's got to be cool.
It is so
come down and just hit the other bird.
Yeah, it's a unique hobby.
An expensive hobby.
It's expensive. It shouldn't be. It doesn't need to be. It is. It's just
You get carried away.
You get carried away.
How many birds do you have?
I actually only have a peregrine falcon, so
Just the one bird.
yeah, I can have up to 3 because I'm a general falconer. I could be a master falconer. Like I got to go get that process taken care of. But I'm a general falconer, which allows me to have 3 birds. I can take 3 wild take birds, but I only need one.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work with one bird. I maybe have I'll maybe have a couple more birds in the future when I got some more time on my hands. But right now one's plenty.
That's cool though. You can have a senator that's a falconer.
You know who else is a falconer? RFK Jr.
Really?
He's a falconer. He's done some pretty cool stuff, and he's I think a champion of a lot of different falconry legislation that we're trying to get passed for on a federal level for some things that we want to do, that things that other falconers around the world can do that we can't, that we want to do. But there's a couple falconers in Utah that have a golden eagle. You can count coyotes with golden eagles. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
It's pretty fun stuff, though. It's a unique hobby.
It's big birds.
They're big birds. They're big birds, and I've rescued quite a few of them, released some of them. They're powerful birds. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll ever have one because they're kind of scary.
But they got to be expensive too. Like you got to raise them from.
You can't. So a golden eagle. You can only get a golden eagle if you're a master falconer, if you've gotten the certain qualifications, and if it's a wildlife deprecation situation, meaning that it's
Very limited.
currently hunting, and they only issue 8 federal permits for the entire United States per year.
Very limited.
Very limited. And you can only get it off of a wildlife deprecation situation. And when you get that call anywhere in the U.S., you have to be ready to go get it, because if you can't, they'll pass you and go to somebody else, and then you lost it for that year. So you got to be ready, and then you go out, you got to trap that bird. And
So is there somebody here in Utah that has one?
yeah, there's a few.
There's a few.
Yeah.
We should get you and them together to the podcast.
Yeah, they would. I'm sure they would.
I would die. That would be awesome.
They're massive birds. In fact, my sponsor's sponsor. So a sponsor is somebody that you have to have a sponsor in order to become a falconer. They won't let you get your permit, your apprentice permit, unless you have a sponsor. And so my sponsor's sponsor has a golden eagle down in Enoch. He runs the Enoch Wildlife Rehab Center, and he has a golden eagle that he hunts with down there. I mean, he's been.
Has he hunted coyotes with it?
I don't know. I don't know if he's done that. He's quite the person. He's one of the few wildlife rehabs in the state, and he's been doing it for over 50 years. And he's one of the best falconers like ever. He's an amazing falconer, and he takes care of birds. He knows how to treat them. But he's flown so many different types of birds. But his golden eagle, he's had 2 golden eagles over his span of his lifetime. And the one he has right now is amazing, and just loves them. Just an amazing bird.
That's awesome. Well, it was great having you. Kind of the last thing is give us your stump speak. What do you want your voters to know about you?
The biggest thing that I want them to know about me is that I come at things with a different approach. I really think outside the box. I don't settle for just one solution. I want multiple solutions and then figure out which is the best one and be able to adapt to the best one and not go, oh, sorry, we didn't pick that solution. We picked this one and now we're just going to, go for it. I'm adaptable. I'm looking constantly and adjusting and making sure that we're making the right decisions. I feel like I would be a very good representative for our area, and I want to represent the people. I want to be out there meeting new people. I want to be a networker for our area, for our state. I want to constantly find new innovation out there, facilitate healthy private business, and let that take it and let the government stay out of it. I want to be an advocate on the Hill for the Republican Party, helping them out, growing the party, making the party stronger, broadcasting conservative principles so that people understand what we're trying to do. I want to help the legislature have a better trust with the people, and that starts with one senator and grows. And I want to start that process. I want to be someone that my constituents, at a minimum, and everybody else can trust that they're going to do what they say they're going to do. I'm a family guy. I'm married with my beautiful wife, Cece, and I have 2 kids, a little girl who's 9 years old, and a little boy who's 7 years old. And they are.
So how was that conversation when you told your wife that I'm going to run?
She's not political at all. She doesn't like the politics side of things in life. She focuses on other things, which I love, and I think that's a lot of people in politics, where one spouse is heavy into politics, the other's not. There's a few out there that have both, but that both love politics or both hate politics. But
so how'd you have that conversation, honey?
I told, she knew. So the reason I actually got in politics in the first place early on is I always followed federal stuff, and she kind of called me out one day, and she's like, you do things on social media, and you talk about a lot of stuff, and you go to parties and you talk politics, but I don't see you ever taking action, right? And this was early on in our marriage. And I was like, okay, well, I could get involved. Like, you want me to get involved? And so she was like, yeah, I mean, that's, it's better than, just talking about it. It's better than, arguing with people about your views, and go actually do something about it. And so I went and became a delegate, and at her advice.
Well, that's good that she pushed you towards it. And
started that process. She loves that I do it, because she sees that I have a huge passion for it and that I love it. She knows that I'm really good at networking. She knows that I really love interacting with people and doing that. So she loves seeing me do that. And that's really cool that she recognized that in me and kind of empowers me to do those things. But we are raising our kids. We want the best for our kids. We do everything for our kids. We are in our kids' lives. We are doing things with them constantly and teaching them new things. We just don't see Utah going in the right direction. It's slowly becoming like a California. It's slowly becoming a state that everybody it really is trying to avoid, that wants to live here. And we want to change that. We want our education system to be great for our kids. We want we want this place to be somewhere that we can raise a family. And so every policy that I look at will be family first. We talk a lot about America first. We talk a lot about, I really do believe it's family first. I feel like if it's good for the family, it's good for America. It's going back. America is who it is because of the family unit, because of who we are as families. And I want to empower that. I want to make it to where a family can enjoy Utah, can survive in Utah, can flourish, can exceed all expectations in Utah, because we create that opportunity here. We don't let government get in the way. We don't let government hamper it. So every policy, I think it is a very good practice to look at every piece of legislation and ask the question, does it do good for the family for a family in Utah isn't good for them. And if it's not good for me.
Not pass it.
Yeah.
Because you got to look at it right now. So the kids moving out of their parents' houses right now are already looking at housing markets. Too expensive to buy a house, barely expensive to live. Okay, if it's that bad now, by the time your kids 10 years from now, 12 years now become that
My
age,
thought so I'm 40
how's
years
it going to
old.
be for them?
I'm 40 years old. I'm thinking for my kids right now, I'm thinking I've got to make enough money to make sure that I can help them become successful, because they're not going to be able to do it on their own if things keep going the way they are and inflation keeps going up, houses keep driving up. They're not going to be able to move out. They're not going to be able to.
They're going to be 35 years old, still living with you.
That I feel like I've got to take on that responsibility now, right? Nobody should be feeling like, everybody should be feeling like, we go through the natural order of things.
It
They're
should
going to
be
be able to have
better
their
for
own
the
family.
next generation, not worse.
Right. And so that's where we're at. That's what I'm feeling as a parent. That's what I'm feeling as a provider. I'm trying to figure this out on how I can make enough money so that I can avoid those problems. Right. But I feel like the legislature should be able to help with that. Should be able to fix some of those problems, get the government out of
Fix
the way
it now and not postpone it.
to where families aren't suffering in the future.
Because if your kids become ages of an adult and a lot of these freeways and stuff still aren't built, that's a problem.
Yep. I am
Because 10 years goes by quick.
at 40 years old. I am dealing with all of these problems that we're talking. I'm firsthand dealing with them. I am making it through. I am doing what I need to do, and it's difficult. Everybody's feeling it. Everybody understands. But the fact that I'm living it with them, I can tell you right now, I am a dad with a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old right now that is experiencing so many things that everyone else in my district.
Add 10 years to that, you'll have a 19-year-old coming out of high school
We have a
trying to
young
get
district.
out there, and what's the state going to look like?
We have a young district that a lot of people are my age or in similar situation that I'm dealing with, and I feel like I can relate with them. They can relate with me and go, you know what? I think that guy understands what I'm going through and can represent me well.
Yeah. What's it going to look like when your kids are?
I'm feeling that. I
Getting
know
out of high
what that's.
school.
I know what people are going through right now, and I want to. If I'm wanting to make it better for myself, it's going to benefit you because I'm going through the same thing you're going through.
I'm past that. My kids are already out of high school. These are going to be your kids getting out of
It's
high
our
school.
generation that now has to fix this problem.
Got to work on that.
Yep.
Well, I am glad you came on board. It's been a tremendously fun conversation. The beginning was fast and rapid, just go, 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 and then we got into the hard subjects here at the end and what centered around Utah. So I hope you, as the public, are seeing the guy we've got here, and hopefully you support him well, visit him. I hope all the delegates from Northern Utah County clear up to
Senate District 11.
Senate District 11 to the Magna Tool areas all get with him and have those personal conversations. Use this podcast to kind of catch his views and what he stands for. We'll get the podcast out there. Again, like, subscribe, and share. Make sure we get out there. Look down below to get our merch. We still have our T-shirts on for sale, so support the channel. And we will see everybody on the next video.